Chapter 11:28. Just as the two of them were drinking to their heart's content, a few black men dressed in hip-hop outfits walked in. When they saw Su Yun and Bai Xiaoya, a black man wearing a baseball cap walked in front with a bright smile on his face. He swayed his body back and forth as he walked to Su Yun and Bai Xiaoya. All kinds of copper chains hung around his neck, swayed with his body. Wow! Oriental beauty! The black man wearing the baseball cap smiled especially brightly. He pulled a chair over and sat next to Bai Xiaoya. "Can I buy you a drink?" Even if Bai Xiaoya was usually in a good mood, she would still be upset when something like this happened. However, today was different. Today Bai Xiaoya was in a terrible mood. She was really annoyed. At this time, someone insisted on touching the muzzle of a gun. It would be strange if they didn't die. Bai Xiaoya didn't even turn her head. She raised her hand and poured half a glass of whiskey on the black man wearing the baseball cap. How could this be? The black man's eyes widened, and he immediately turned hostile. What Oriental beauty! How dare you trample on my face like this, big brother? A few hip-hop underlings who followed the black man wearing the baseball cap also rushed up. Of course, Su Yun wouldn't let his sister suffer. After drinking some alcohol, he couldn't care less. He directly stood up and grabbed the bar chair under him. Seeing that a fight was about to break out, the bearded bar owner slammed his hand on the bar counter. "Randall, you better not cause trouble in my bar. Unless you think you've lived for too long." After saying that, the bar owner also glared at Su Yun. "And you foreign friends, this is America." After saying that, the bearded bar owner directly took out a rifle from the bar counter. The style of the rifle seemed to be very old, but the body of the rifle was very clean. It didn't look like it had been used for many years at all. From this, it could be seen that the bearded bar owner was definitely a gun lover. The black man in the baseball cap, who was originally at daggers drawn, instantly lost his temper. The black man in the baseball cap was called Randall. He seemed to be familiar with the bearded boss. The bearded boss seemed to have some influence. Otherwise, he wouldn't have stopped the black men from doing what they were doing with just one sentence. Randall glanced at the bearded boss and forced out a smile. "Big Beard, I'll give you face and not cause trouble in your shop." The bearded boss put away his gun and took a glass. He poured half a glass of whiskey for the black man in the baseball cap. "This glass is on me." Randall didn't hold back. He picked up the glass and drained it in one gulp. Then he slammed the glass on the bar. Of course, Randall couldn't take it lying down. He sneered and pointed at Su Yun and Bai Xiaoya. "I'll give face to the boss here. However, I will definitely let you know that I, Randall, am not someone to be trifled with in these few blocks." Perhaps it was due to anger, but when Randall said those words, his chest was heaving up and down. The resentment in his eyes was quite thick. "Are you leaving or not?" Bai Xiaoya finally turned around. However, the murderous aura in her eyes made Randall's legs tremble. "If you don't leave, I'll pour more water on you." Su Yun saw Bai Xiaoya pick up the bottle and snatch it away from her. "Don't waste the alcohol. It's so expensive." He wasn't afraid that Bai Xiaoya would fall out with the black man in the baseball cap. However, he felt that if they continued to cause trouble, he wouldn't be giving face to the bearded boss. Sometimes, face was very interesting. It was something that had to be given to each other. The bearded boss didn't allow the black guy to cause trouble for Su Yun and Bai Xiaoya in the bar, which was the greatest help he could give them. If they didn't appreciate his help, it would be a little disloyal. After all, the bearded boss would have to bear the consequences of breaking the bar's wine stool. Su Yun didn't have the spare money to pay for it. A hooligan like the other party probably wouldn't admit to it, right? Therefore, Su Yun suppressed Bai Xiaoya's anger. This hooligan definitely wouldn't admit defeat. Even if he couldn't get it back in the bar, he would think of a way to get it back after leaving the bar. There would definitely be a chance to teach them a lesson. They would definitely take the initiative to do so. Bai Xiaoya coldly glared at the black man in the baseball cap, then turned around and ignored them. The flame within Randall's heart was ignited once more. He was completely unable to accept a man and a woman, two Asians, ordering him around in the street where he grew up. "I want to see if this place listens to you or listens to me, Randall." After saying that, Randall waved his hand. "Let's go." Randall's lackeys turned around and left with him. After the group of hooligans left, the bearded boss said to Su Yun and Bai Xiaoye, "If you're tourists here, you better leave quickly." "Thank you." Su Yun nodded politely at the bearded boss and took out his wallet to pay. "Just the few of them?" "Humph." Bai Xiaoye was a little tipsy, so she was fearless. Seeing the girl being so careless, the bearded boss had to remind her, "Don't underestimate these hooligans. They can think of all kinds of evil tricks. You're Huaxia people." "Boss, you have good eyesight." Su Yun smiled slightly. "Then you should understand that the king of hell is easy to deal with, but the little ghosts are hard to deal with." Even Bai Xiaoye was shocked by the bearded boss's words. Su Yun nodded. Yes, you're right. We'll pay and leave now." Bai Xiaoye smiled meaningfully. Regardless of whether it was the king of hell or the little ghosts, she, Bai Xiaoye, wasn't a fish on the chopping block. If those hooligans dared to provoke them again, she would let them know what a Huaxia expert was. When the bearded boss collected the money, he gave Su Yun a discount, but Su Yun's heart still ached. Bai Xiaoye's alcohol tolerance was really good, but she had been with Zhuo Lingyue for so many years. How could Zhuo Lingyue let a girl like her learn how to drink? Therefore, even though Bai Xiaoye could drink, she still couldn't handle the alcohol. She even swayed a little when she walked. "It's okay, right?" Su Yun asked. "Will it be okay if we get ambushed by hooligans later?" Bai Xiaoye snorted in disdain. "Just a few hooligans, little vegetables." At this moment, the little vegetables that Bai Xiaoye was talking about were staring at the entrance of the bar under the shade of the street corner, worried that the two people would run away. Although the bar owner, Christian, was already in his 50s, he was once a powerful person who unified all the hooligans in this area. With his status, Randall wouldn't cause trouble in his bar. Christian was old and didn't want to cause trouble for himself. Randall understood this. However, as long as the two people came out, he could do whatever he wanted. Christian couldn't do anything about it. "Big brother, they're out," a tall and strong guy behind Randall said. Randall frowned impatiently. "Don't tell me I don't have eyes? You guys go and get them here immediately. If they don't come, drag them here even if you have to. I want them to have a taste of this trash can." At the end of the alley there was a trash can. Randall stood at the end of the street and sneered at the two prey who were completely unaware of the danger they were in. This woman was too beautiful. He was going to have a good time today. No one would be able to stop him. Randall's subordinates quickly rushed out of the intersection and surrounded Su Yun and Bai Xiaoye. Randall was waiting to see how these two little things would run away and be dragged over by his subordinates. However, he was surprised to see that the man and woman actually nodded and walked over with his subordinates. Chapter 11:29. Su Yun and Bai Xiaoye were quickly brought over by Randall's subordinates. A few black and strong American street thugs blocked the entrance of the alley with their bodies. Even if something tragic happened inside, the passers-by wouldn't meddle in other people's business. Everyone knew what was going on inside. Su Yun and Bai Xiaoye faced Randall and the wide green trash can at the end of the alley. Perhaps the sanitation workers in charge of these streets were too irresponsible. The trash can looked like it had not been cleaned for many days. Some of the garbage bags were thrown outside, and flies and rats were buzzing around. The more they looked at it, the more disgusted they felt. Xiao Luo did not expect the Environmental Protection Bureau of the United States to be similar to the Environmental Protection Bureau of Huaxia. They both raised a bunch of useless bums who only knew how to eat and not do anything. The Environmental Protection Bureau ignored all the urban household waste pollution, urban industrial waste pollution, urban water pollution, and the headache-inducing urban noise pollution. No matter who went to the Environmental Protection Bureau to do something or report about environmental and mental pollution, the Environmental Protection Bureau's people liked to reply with one sentence. "Our bureau has already arranged for the city administration and law enforcement to deal with it. We will inform you when it is done." F***CK. What kind of people do you think the city administration is? You can order them around whenever you want. Do you know that they are city administration officers? If the city administration officers knew that the Environmental Protection Bureau was so arrogant, they would definitely destroy them in a matter of minutes. However, There was one thing that Su Yin did not understand. The American Empire's environment was very good. They did not even need to install a water purifier to drink the water directly from their pipes. In China, even if they used a water purifier, they still had to boil it before they dared to drink it. If they did not use a water purifier, they would not be able to drink tap water. With so much water being boiled, it would be difficult to drink. All these things were attributed to the Environmental Protection Bureau in Huaxia. Take the famous tourist attraction in Huaxia, the hometown of Confucius and Mencius, Xufu, as an example. The city wanted to become the most hygienic city in the country. The funny thing was that the Xiaoyi River 50 meters north of the entrance of the Environmental Protection Bureau was as dirty as a smelly drain. It was a world-famous cultural holy land. Every morning and evening, there were all kinds of noises from supermarkets, square dances, and construction. These noises seriously disturbed the residents and the image of a tourist city. Xiao Luo did not understand the purpose of the Environmental Protection Bureau in this city. Why not cancel it? Why should the taxpayers' money be used to support a bunch of idlers? Needless to say, such situations existed all over the country. How many people have a nervous breakdown because of the noise, but they don't know that noise pollution is also a kind of pollution, and the Environmental Protection Agency has the right to be responsible for this matter. You want to splash me? Randall sneered. Do you know who I am? Seeing that Bai Xiaoya was about to hit him, Su Yin reached out and stopped her. She was drunk, so she wouldn't hold back. It would be too much if she killed him. Although this black hooligan deserved a beating, he didn't deserve to die. Let me tell you, I am the Wolf of Seattle. Randall pointed his thumb at himself and said, Today the two of you must give me an explanation. Otherwise, don't even think about leaving here alive. What do you want? Just say it. Su Yin calmed Bai Xiaoya down as he asked. Randall heard Su Yin's words and thought that they were afraid. It's not too late to know your mistake now. You hand over all the cash you have on you. If you don't have more than $1,000, go steal from the streets until you have enough. Su Yin smiled helplessly. That's it. Of course. Randall smiled sinisterly. This woman wants to make me comfortable today. If she doesn't, don't even think about leaving. Otherwise, I'll let you know the power of the Wolf of Seattle. Before the word harm could leave his mouth, Randall's body was sent flying in a perfect parabola for tens of meters. His head plunged straight into that disgusting green rubbish bin. Su Yin wasn't paying attention and didn't control Bai Xiaoya. So Bai Xiaoya's long leg kicked out. Who could he blame? He could only blame Randall's mouth for being too cheap. Even if Su Yin wanted to give him a chance to get out of here quickly, he couldn't. Randall's underlings saw their boss being kicked away. In a fit of anger, they didn't care about their own fate, and directly rushed over. Bai Xiaoya dodged to the side and said to Su Yin, I'll leave it to you. Then, she walked out of the alley without looking back. The stench of the trash can was completely released by Randall's fall. It was quite pungent, and Bai Xiaoya couldn't take it anymore. In such a bad environment, she would let Su Yin handle it. After 10 seconds, Su Yin didn't even dare to breathe. After dealing with the last hooligan, he quickly rushed out of the alley. The green trash can at the end of the alley had already been filled to the brim by a few black punks. The garbage was overflowing, and Randall, who was buried at the bottom, had already fainted from the stench. The Wolf of Seattle was nothing more than this. All of Bai Xiaoya's unhappiness seemed to have disappeared with that kick. She was in a much better mood. Of course, this was only on the surface. No one could understand what she was thinking. Half an hour later, Su Yin finally received the first call from Matthew after he left Huaxia. This caused Su Yin's emotions to surge a little. What's the situation now? Su Yin went straight to the point. Matthew wanted to say something but hesitated. I did find something, but just say it, Su Yin said. I know what I'm doing. If it's something I can't do, I won't do it. The CIA wasn't the only one who got rid of the Great Circle. They colluded with the mafia. A lot of things were done by the CIA on the surface, but behind the scenes it was done by the mafia, Matthew said. Mr. Gu isn't being held in a place related to the US government. Su Yin was stunned. What do you mean? Mr. Gu is someone the US government wants to capture. But the forces that cooperated with the government have turned hostile. They want to use Mr. Gu to get more benefits from the U.S. government. But the U.S. government doesn't agree, Matthew said. I've asked a lot of people, and the situation seems to have reached a stalemate. Who's so powerful? Even the U.S. government can't afford to offend them? Su-yin frowned. Could it be related to the 5 major families? Matthew nodded. Yes. A long time ago, the American Mafia was the most complete organization in the American underworld. Since the 1950s, the American Mafia had begun to take shape. There were many factions, and many independent underworld groups that controlled the American Mafia had spread throughout the major cities in the country. This was a well-organized mafia organization with a strict hierarchy. Ever since its founder, Don Vito, left the United States, the highest ruling body of the American Mafia was the Committee. The Committee was made up of the 12 leaders of the various gangs in the country. It was the supreme authority of the American Mafia, and the chairman of the committee was the highest leader. The chairman of the committee was Carlo Gambino, the leader of the Gambino family, one of the 5 families of the New York Mafia. Back then, the biggest mafia group was the New England Mafia. That was because it was the leader in terms of numbers, territory and wealth. However, the 5 families were all concentrated in New York. Thus, they were particularly powerful. Chapter 1130. Out of the 5 great families, the Gambino family was the one that could not be offended the most. Compared to them, the other 4 families were considered easy to offend. Of course, this was only in relative terms. In reality, none of the 5 great mafia families in New York were easy to offend. This was especially so for the Gambino family. Even the law enforcement department did not want to offend them. Therefore, Su-yin definitely did not want to offend them either. However, 80% of the people who dared to capture Gu Guolong and go against the U.S. government were probably the Gambino family. If it were the other families, the U.S. government would not have such a headache. Su-yin felt his scalp go numb. Even if you don't tell me, I know who did it. Of the 5 great mafia families in New York City, the Gambino family, the Genovese family, the Lucchese family, the Bonanno family, and the Colombo family, the Gambino family had the greatest power and influence. The founder of the organization, Gambino, was born in Sicily, Italy. In 1921, he smuggled himself into the U.S. by boat and settled down in Brooklyn, New York. He then started his mafia activities. Gambino's activities included illegal casinos, loan sharking, kidnapping, drug trafficking, and the most prominent trait was that he used his control over the Seamen's Union to blackmail the laborers. Over the past few years, the Gambino family's influence had expanded rapidly, negatively affecting the economic and social development of New York City and many other regions in the U.S. The 5 great mafia families had also divided the areas under their jurisdiction. Among them, the Gambino family's jurisdiction was the wealthy New York City and most of the docks in New Jersey. From this, it could be seen that the Gambino family was not to be offended. Other than the Gambino family's current godfather, Randolph, no one else has the courage to ask the U.S. government for $1 billion USD to ransom someone. Matthew said, based on what I heard, Randolph firmly believes that Gu Guolong has important secrets that the U.S. government wants to know. Therefore, they won't let him go easily. Asking for money is a small matter. The main thing is to show the U.S. government who's boss. If the U.S. government knows that the recent sanctions against them have been too severe, they'll bite back. $1 billion USD? Damn, even old Master Gu was shocked. Who knew if all of their businesses in Canada added up to $1 billion USD? The Gambino family really dared to ask for that. They probably won't be able to get that much money, right? Su-yin said. Matthew sighed. If they only want money, I'm afraid the U.S. government would have relented. However, they made an even more outrageous request, which was for the U.S. government to withdraw from the drug inspection operation in Brooklyn. After all, Brooklyn was the borough with the largest population among the 5 boroughs in New York. Due to the strict investigation and punishment of Manhattan and Queens a while ago, the Gambino family's interests were greatly damaged. That's why they want revenge. This matter definitely won't be settled. Su-yin. Even a fool would understand this. If the government were to go along with this, they wouldn't be able to raise their heads in front of the Gambino family. That's why things are a little tricky. Matthew shook his head helplessly. Suyin chuckled. What's so troublesome about that? I've thought it through. It was better for old Master Gu to be in the hands of the Gambino family than in the hands of the U.S. government. At the very least, the godfather of the Gambino family, Randolph, is in the same line as old Master Gu. One is a playboy family, while the other is a playboy society. To put it bluntly, they're both organizations that violate the rules. I feel that old Master Gu will receive more respect in Randolph's hands. On the contrary, he won't be as popular in the hands of the U.S. government. Matthew's jaw almost dropped when he heard that. You can even think about it in reverse? Also, snatching someone from the hands of the mafia should be easier than snatching someone from the hands of the U.S. government, right? Suyin smiled. I feel that this will be more beneficial. Matthew shrugged. Why do I feel that it won't be easy? All right, let me think of a way to deal with the rest. Suyin said. Matthew, thank you. Thank me? Ah. Matthew laughed bitterly. Are you trying to embarrass me? All of this happened because of me, but I hid in the safest place and let old Master Gu and Miss Gu be in danger. I even let you take such a huge risk to do such a dangerous thing. Brother Yin, you've really slapped me in the face. Suyin grinned. Matthew, don't think too much. I didn't mean it that way. These are things that we can't predict. If you have any news later, you must tell me immediately. I'll talk to you later. My place seems to be quite far from New York. I might need some time to get there. Don't tell me you're in Seattle. Matthew asked in surprise. Suyin nodded. Do I need to praise you for being smart? If I'm not in Seattle, where else can I go? After I arrived in Seattle, I didn't sense the scent of a large number of U.S. secret agents. I thought that since your home is in Seattle, there should be a lot of CIA secret agents here. It seems that I was thinking too much. Brother Yin, if you need a car, I have a car parked at the airport. It's a red new model Accord. The key is in the password safe at the airport. The safe number is 1745, and the password is 010101, Matthew said. Suyin was stunned. Why didn't you say so earlier? If you had said so earlier, they wouldn't have been able to get a black car last night. Why did you buy a Japanese car? Matthew grinned. My patriotism is not that irrational. I can prove my patriotism with my contributions. There's no need to be so radical about a certain country's products. After all, Japanese cars are easy to worry about. It's suitable for people like me who don't understand the mechanics of cars. It won't break down easily. American cars have a lot of small problems. We're not like the Americans. Everyone uses a wrench to fix their cars. Most of the small problems are solved by themselves. What he said made sense. Those who smashed Japanese cars under the guise of patriotism were no different from those Japanese who killed and robbed. They all like to destroy other people's property and interfere with other people's internal affairs. Those people were definitely the classic patriotic thieves. You're much better than those bandits who use patriotism as an excuse. Suyin smiled. Then I'll go to the airport to get the car now. If it's still fine after I use it, I'll return it to you. After hanging up the phone, Suyin waved his hand and called Bai Xiaoya to the airport. When Bai Xiaoya heard that they were going to the airport to get the car and drive from Seattle to New York, she was dumbfounded. It's a direct flight that takes about 5 hours. The cheapest ticket is about $500. You don't have to drive there just to save two people's tickets, right? It's only $1,000. Sister, you don't even have a passport with you. Why don't you go and buy a ticket and see if they can sell it to you? Suyin rolled his eyes helplessly. Do you think I want to drive there? It's hard to even get on a bus, let alone a plane. Also, the bus will take at least 3 days. After all, it was a distance of 4,000 to 5,000 kilometers. Bai Xiaoya pondered for a while and decided that driving was the most suitable option. If she drove fast, she would definitely be able to get there within 2 days. Then there's no other way. Bai Xiaoya nodded. We'll drive in shifts. 4 hours each. It shouldn't be too tiring. At this time, Suyin was already counting the fuel costs with his fingers. Luckily, it was a Japanese car. He could still save some fuel. Chapter 1131. Since they had decided to leave, Su Yun and Bai Xiaoya didn't want to have any regrets. Besides, they couldn't travel after drinking so much. As a country on wheels, the United States had accumulated a lot of experience in preventing traffic accidents. Punishing drunk driving was definitely the most important thing. Other than revoking the driver's license on the spot and being jailed for a year, drunk drivers who caused harm to life could be charged with second-degree murder, which carried a maximum penalty of death. In recent years, the blood alcohol concentration standard for drunk driving had become stricter, dropping from 0.8% to 0.5%. Due to the higher proportion of young people driving after drinking, for drivers under the age of 21, a blood alcohol concentration of 0.1% was considered drunk driving. The strict traffic law even made Americans drink less alcohol at parties. Since the 1990s, the fatality rate per 10,000 vehicles in the United States had dropped to 1.7. Compared to Huaxia, which was higher than 9, the American Empire's experience in this area was really worth referencing. To put it bluntly, it was still a problem of whether the traffic law enforcement was strict enough. There was a common saying at the Chinese table, "Don't worry, I asked the traffic police in the afternoon, and they didn't check it tonight." Then they began to eat and drink. Of course, they could also look into Huaxia's drinking culture. Without drinking, they couldn't talk. It was a bit ridiculous. Making friends required drinking, discussing business, accompanying leaders, upholding the code of brotherhood, and even collecting debts. In any case, 80% of the things couldn't be done without alcohol as a catalyst. Because he didn't want to get into trouble for drunk driving, Su Yun decided to wait with Bai Xiaoya until the alcohol dissipated. It would be safe and at ease. During this period of time, of course, they couldn't leave any regrets in Seattle. Su Yun and Bai Xiaoya went straight to Park Market. There were always so many people in front of the first Starbucks. After buying 2 cups of coffee, the two of them started to wander around. Strolling through every nook and cranny of Pike's Market, there are buckets of fresh flowers, flying fish shows, fresh pastries and fruits and vegetables, artisanal cheeses, local honey, wine, international restaurants, imported goods, antiques, collectibles, and a plethora of unexpected items to be found at any time. When they were hungry, they found a small restaurant and had fried fish sticks and oysters. Then he agreed to Bai Xiaoya's request and took the Ferris wheel. Overlooking Puget Sound and the city center, the scenery was beautiful. After riding the Ferris wheel, the two of them went to visit the Seattle Museum of Art. In the evening, Su Yun brought Bai Xiaoya to Mount Christian Park and looked at the space tower in the distance. The exquisiteness and quietness of Seattle really made one reluctant to leave. Since he had the time to walk around, it was a worthwhile trip. Finally, Su Yun used the alcohol tester he bought at Parker Market to test the alcohol content of his breath. It was completely 0. He could finally go on his way with peace of mind. Now, there was no such thing as driving overnight or not. They only cared about driving in one breath. If they were tired, they would switch shifts. The sooner they arrived in New York, the less danger old Master Gu would be in. However, ever since Gu Guolong had been brought to New York, he had been leading a good life. He had seen the Secret Service of the American Empire, and he had also seen the Gambino family, which was definitely of Italian mafia blood. They were much more ruthless and sinister than Big Circle. The difference between Gu Guolong and Randolph was definitely not a matter of 1 or 2 streets. Randolph was more than 10 streets ahead of him. However, Randolph had been treating Gu Guolong well these days. Not only did he not show any disrespect to him, but he was also very polite to him. This made Gu Guolong a little confused. In America, regardless of whether one was in the mafia or not, when they saw Randolph, they had to respectfully call him Godfather. Gu Guolong was very clear about his identity, so he was very polite to Randolph. "Godfather, thank you for taking care of me these few days. However, I really don't understand how an old man like me can be of any use to you and your family." "Mr. Gu, you are too polite." Randolph sat on the lambskin sofa opposite Gu Guolong. He smiled and took a sip of coffee. "Since the government values you so much, I will definitely not mistreat you, Mr. Gu. As long as the government agrees to my conditions, I will personally hand Mr. Gu over to the government." Randolph paused for a second and continued. Mr. Gu, I am quite curious about what happened between you and the government. Even when I asked for 1 billion USD, the government didn't even bat an eye. Ha ha ha, Mr. Gu, you're quite capable, huh? I am afraid that even my head is not worth 1 billion USD, right? Godfather, you must be joking. Gu Guolong shook his head helplessly. To be honest, until now, he still didn't understand why such a big disaster would happen to Big Circle. Was it because Matthew left through their merchant ship? Wasn't the government making a big fuss out of nothing? Mr. Gu, if I am not mistaken, you must have a close relationship with Kevin Matthew, right? Randolph smiled. Ha ha ha, otherwise, why would it be so tragic? Gu Guolong still shook his head helplessly. Godfather, if Mr. Matthew and I were really close, I would have left with him. Ha ha ha, I don't care whether you admit it or not. Randolph smiled. I just want to get what I want. I don't care whether Kevin Matthew becomes a weapon for the Americans or Huaxia. Gu Guolong didn't know what to say to Randolph. After all, they were not on the same side. He was being polite to Randolph because he wanted to use Randolph to ask for more conditions from the government. If he was useless, Randolph would have thrown him into the deep river to feed the fishes. In a private mansion located at the southern tip of Brooklyn, the conversation between Randolph and Randolph wasn't pleasant, but they didn't have any conflicts either. Mr. Gu, you haven't been out of your house recently, so you must be lacking in information. Randolph said. I heard some news, but I don't know if I should tell you. Gu Guolong frowned. He didn't have any information about his family, but he wasn't interested in any other news except for his family. There was an arms merchant ship passing through Canada near the Pacific Ocean. It was sunk by the Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Forces frigate. Randolph said, I wonder if this has anything to do with Mr. Gu's circle. Gu Guolong couldn't sit still anymore. He stood up and his mind was blank. All he wanted to know was his daughter's safety. The corner of Randolph's mouth curled up into a smile. The firearms business of the Great Circle was nothing to Randolph. Only those who had no connections in America and Europe would go to Asia to sell firearms. Of course, this also proved that the 5 big families controlled the American arms business. Gu Guolong's Big Circle couldn't interfere. Is there any news from the people on the ship? Gu Guolong asked after a long pause. Randolph smiled. I can help you find out. As long as you stay here and cooperate with me. Godfather, I won't leave, Gu Guolong said. I just want you to help me find out where my daughter is. As long as you help me, I can stay here forever. No. How can I force you to stay here forever? Ha ha ha. As long as the American government agrees to my request, I can send you away anytime. Randolph said. Of course, if you need any information, I can arrange someone to help you find her. Don't worry. I will inform you as soon as I get any news about your daughter. Chapter 1132. Speaking of New York, those who had been there would definitely have a deep impression of it. The places that had the deepest impact on Huaxia were the few Chinatowns in New York, such as Sheepshead Bay in Brooklyn, 8th Avenue, and Amherst in Queens. Of course, the oldest Chinatown was in Manhattan. Its main feature was Old Cantonese, which was more traditional. Most importantly, the Chinese food there was delicious and not expensive. Of course, the Statue of Liberty had to be mentioned. This was the iconic statue of the American Empire. The American Empire emphasized democracy and freedom, so the Statue of Liberty meant a lot to its citizens. Other than that, there was Wall Street, Times Square, and the World Trade Center site that was now known as Ground Zero. The site had been preserved as if to remind the Americans of the disastrous terrorist attack. When one reached New York, one had to go to Park Avenue to see how grand the luxurious buildings on both sides were. Many of the past nobles and billionaires from all over the world lived there. Also, one had to go to Broadway to listen to the opera. If one was not afraid of heights, one could climb the Empire State Building at night to enjoy the night view of New York and experience what an international metropolis was like. Then one would know how unworthy the so-called second and third-tier cities were. They were frogs at the bottom of a well. The biggest city in the American Empire was definitely not for show. A billionaire who can start from scratch on Wall Street is really scheming. One had to know that this multi-ethnic city had immigrants from 97 countries and regions, and the number of languages spoken here was as high as 800. Compared to New York, Yanjing, Xinjiang, and Guangshan did not seem to have any sense of regional glory. The Big Apple, Nightless City, Gotham City. A pair of nicknames that came from the outside world announced the city's influence on the world. This was a world-class city that directly affected the global economy, finance, media, politics, education, entertainment, and fashion. Otherwise, the Chopsticks brothers and the White Tiger brothers would not have acted out such a sad and happy story there. This city had a huge global influence in business and finance. New York's financial district, with Lower Manhattan's Wall Street as the head, was known as the world's financial center. The New York Stock Exchange was the world's second largest stock exchange. It was once the largest exchange until 1996, when its trading volume was surpassed by Nasdaq. The New York Times Square was located at the hub of the Broadway Theater District. It was known as the crossroads of the world, and one of the centers of the world's entertainment industry. Chinatown in Manhattan, New York, was the most densely populated place for Chinese people in the Western Hemisphere. The city of New York was filled with all kinds of titles. It was already dawn, and Bai Xiaoye was driving on the interstate highway. However, Su Yun, who had been driving all night, didn't seem to be sleepy at all. He even opened the sunroof and sang loudly, "I've never been to New York, I've never been to Hawaii, I've never been to San Francisco in a denim jacket. I've never been to New York. I want to feel the air of freedom, I want to break free from the shackles and release myself." Alright, don't be crazy. It's not like I'm asking you to participate in the super draft. Bai Xiaoye had slowly accepted this big brother of hers. Although she felt a little strange, there was an indescribable feeling in her heart. Perhaps this was the power of blood ties. Su Yun sat firmly and fastened his seatbelt. He said smoothly, "Sister, I'm going to take a nap first. Call me when you're tired. There's a lot of Red Bull in the storage compartment beside the door. If you're tired, you can get 2 more bottles. Okay, don't worry and sleep. I won't throw you away." Bai Xiaoye smiled. She thought that Su Yun called her sister quite smoothly. He didn't even ask if she was used to it. The power of blood always gave people an inexplicable sense of closeness. When Su Yun called her sister, Bai Xiaoye instantly felt closer to him. In a sense, Bai Xiaoye, who suddenly realized that she still had family, unconsciously wanted to find the warmth of this family. However, her mother had hurt her too deeply. She had been by her side for so many years, but she had never admitted it. Therefore, it was very difficult for Bai Xiaoye to accept it. Fortunately, there was Su Yun. Bai Xiaoye already had an inexplicable sense of closeness to him. Now that she knew that he was her brother, she naturally felt closer. Therefore, Bai Xiaoye's sibling relationship with Su Yun quickly warmed up, because of her desire for family. Compared to a mother who suddenly appeared, it was easier for Bai Xiaoye to accept a brother. No matter what, the two of them had an equally unreliable father. Last night, Su Yun was worried about Bai Xiaoye's jet lag, so he didn't wake her up after she fell asleep. He drove the whole night. As soon as he closed his eyes, he fell asleep. It was easy to sleep, but difficult to wake up. Especially in the car, Su Yun slept for 6 hours in a wobbly manner. He only woke up because he felt someone digging in his pocket. The car was out of gas, and the spare gas tank in the trunk was also out of gas. Bai Xiaoye saw a gas station, so she came down to refill the car. After filling up the car, she went to Su Yun to look for his wallet. Only then did she accidentally wake Su Yun up. Su Yun got out of the car and stretched. He paid the bill at the gas station and asked casually, "Where are we now?" "The town of Melrose, Minnesota." The gas station owner took the money and stuffed it into his pocket without looking. "We'll be in the center of Minneapolis soon." Su Yun was stunned. Since they set off last night, they had driven for nearly 16 hours. They had actually gone from Seattle, Washington, through Montana, North Dakota, and now they were in the center of Minnesota. They were almost halfway there. It seemed that Bai Xiaoye's speed in the past 6 hours wasn't slow. Seeing the excitement on Su Yun's face, Bai Xiaoye, who didn't care much about distance, was puzzled. "Are we almost there?" After Minnesota, Chicago, Ohio, and Pennsylvania, We'll reach New York. Although Su Yin had never lived in the United States before, his mind was a living map. As a member of the Special Forces, if he couldn't even understand the geography of the country, then he might as well not work in the military. Hearing that they still had to pass through several states, Bai Xiaoya was no longer excited. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go. No one will send us off if we sit here. On the road again, Su Yin, who had slept, was full of energy. The two of them changed shifts every few hours and didn't feel tired even after driving until night time. After dark, the two of them found a fast food burger restaurant to eat. Then, Su Yin let Bai Xiaoya sleep at night while he drove through the night. When Bai Xiaoya opened her eyes again, she was surprised to find that the Statue of Liberty on Liberty Island, which was located next to the Golden Gate of New York Harbor, was right in front of her. She was so excited that she got up so violently that her head hit the roof of the car. Su Yin was stretching outside the car when he heard the noise. He turned around and looked inside the car. You're awake? Bai Xiaoya nodded cutely. We're here. Yes. Su Yin smiled as he stretched. Since they were here, they had to get down to business. If they wanted to find old Gu Guolong, they had to contact the Gambino family, a big mafia family in New York. Chapter 1133. Are you ready to start? Bai Xiaoya opened the door and got out. Have you thought of anything? Who's the godfather of the Gambino family now? How do we contact him? I don't have a clue at all. Su Yin smiled. We don't need any clues. As long as we're ruthless enough, they'll naturally come looking for us. Are you going to offend them on purpose? And then? Bai Xiaoya's mouth fell open in shock. Are you crazy? If we don't handle this well, we'll be hunted down by all the mafia in New York. Even if you don't think much of them, you can't win against so many of them. They're not like Huaxia's hooligans. At most, they'll stab you with a knife. They have so many guns and bullets don't have eyes. In any case, if we want to save old Master Gu from them, we'll have to offend them. Su Yin said. Apart from this, there's no other way to attract Randolph's attention. You're not scared, are you? Bai Xiaoya flicked her hair and puffed out her chest. I'm scared? Are you kidding me? Why would I be scared? You're not scared at all, okay? Then we'll do as you say. Then let's split up and find out what kind of business the Gambino family cares about the most. Tonight, we'll cause some trouble for them. Su Yin said. We'll gather here at 6 tonight. Neither of us has a driver's license, so let's leave the car in the parking lot. New York's roads are too congested. It'll be troublesome if we get into an accident while driving. Bai Xiaoya stretched out her hand. Then you have to give me some money, right? What if I have to eat a hamburger or sit on the ground? I can't be penniless, right? Here, 200 should be enough, right? Spend it sparingly. Su Yin took out $200 and gave it to Bai Xiaoya. Bai Xiaoya was speechless. $200. You're really my brother. Su Yin didn't hear the compliment. Instead, he grinned. Isn't that so? Your brother treats you well, right? You're so generous, giving me $200 at once. Let those who don't have brothers be envious. I think you're really crazy. Bai Xiaoya couldn't be bothered with Su Yin anymore. She walked out of the parking lot and took a taxi. It shouldn't be that easy to find the business that the Gambino family valued the most, right? There was no time to waste. Looking at Bai Xiaoya leaving in the car, Su Yin felt guilty. As an elder brother, he brought his younger sister to New York, but he only gave her 200 yen for her pocket money. He had no choice but to puff himself up at his own cost. During the earthquake, he was concerned about the disaster area and donated all his private savings. The finances of Sky Entertainment Group were completely handed over to Zhua Meiyan. As the boss, he didn't get paid at all. He was also the boss of Xingkai Hotel. He didn't get paid, only the year-end bonus. He had just returned to the Dragon Brigade, and although he had been promoted, he would probably have to wait until next month to receive his salary. Su Yin couldn't possibly ask Ruan Qingshuang and the others for money, although if he were to open his mouth, they would definitely fork out the money without hesitation. But Su Yin really couldn't open his mouth. After all, he was a man. Chang and the Three Tigers of Southern City had also bought houses in Xinjiang, and were now mortgage slaves. Su-yin was too embarrassed to ask them for money. Lin Ge was in a relationship, so his expenses would definitely be high. Moreover, this fellow also didn't have a fixed income, so he must be quite poor. He was probably waiting for the year-end bonus from the hotel. After thinking about it, Su-yin could only make this younger sister of his suffer. He didn't have much money, so she should spend less. The main thing was that he still had to leave enough money for the two of them to fly back. He couldn't possibly spend all his money here and borrow money from Celine when he went back to Vancouver to buy a plane ticket, right? That would be too embarrassing. Su-yin told Bai Xiaoya that they were going to split up to find out more. In fact, he wanted Bai Xiaoya to walk around the Big Apple and experience the local culture. This trip wouldn't be in vain. As for where they could go to poke at the Gambino family's sore spot, he didn't need to do that to know. The Italian mafia's godfather of godfathers, Salvatore Le Piccolo, had been arrested in a police raid. Through drug trafficking, extortion, loan sharking, smuggling, counterfeiting, online piracy, and other illegal activities, they earned over 90 billion euros annually. As the most famous godfather of the modern American mafia, Randolph's ability to earn money might not be as good as the godfather of godfathers, but it shouldn't be a problem for him to earn several billion USD annually, right? His methods were nothing more than drug trafficking, extortion, loan sharking, smuggling, counterfeiting, online piracy, and other illegal activities. Many people might not understand why online piracy was so profitable. That was because they weren't in this line of work. Piracy was to forcefully take the copyright owner's benefits. This was no different from robbers. Not to mention pirating commercialized movies, just pirating online novels could earn him several billion USD annually. But in the end, for Randolph to raise such conditions to the American government, it meant that his main source of income was still drugs and extortion. If he even dared to blackmail the American government, what else did he not dare to do? But Su-yin probably didn't have the time to investigate if he wanted to seize the clues of their drug trade and sabotage it. Other than drug trafficking, smuggling, and extortion, the fastest way to earn money was through loan sharking. As long as Su-yin was involved in the Gambino family's loan sharking business, Randolph would naturally be furious. By then he would definitely want to chop Su-yin into pieces with his own hands. Su-yin knew very well that if he wanted to meet Randolph, he would have to force him to show up. Otherwise, it wouldn't be easy to find him. The plan had been made long ago. Now, Su-yin only needed to find out more about the Gambino family's biggest investment and wealth management company in New York. The Gambino family was so big, even if they were in the business of loan sharking, they would definitely have a signboard approved by the government. This was a symbol of power. But those who dared to come here to borrow money knew very well that it wasn't easy to return the money they borrowed. But in some cases, there would still be many people who would choose loan sharking. Since this industry existed, it meant that there was a reason for its existence. Su-yin yawned and found an ordinary American breakfast shop. He ordered a cup of coffee and a hamburger. In order to save money, he ate the hamburger until it was tasteless in his mouth. Now he really wanted to find a Chinese breakfast shop and have some soup dumplings or spicy soup. Speaking of what he yearned for the most, it was the kind of porridge made of beans. It was thick, with 2 ounces of mutton in it. It was delicious to drink it with relish, and it was dipped in deep-fried dough sticks. It was absolutely satisfying. Other than Xiufu, where Confucius lived, there probably wasn't any other place that had mutton in plain porridge, right? Not to mention America. Su-yin was really thinking too much. After eating a hamburger, Su-yin went back to the streets of New York. Although he didn't have much of an economic brain, he still wanted to go to Wall Street to experience the feeling of living at a fast pace. He didn't want to make himself lazy. How many wolves in sheep's clothing were there in the economic center of the world? How many stories had happened on Wall Street that made people rich overnight, and also made people go back to the time before liberation? Probably no one could count them, right? The more heavenly a city looked, the more brutal the competition was. Su-yin was really impressed. How big were these bosses on Wall Street? Only then would he be able to withstand such enormous pressure. Chapter 1134. The origin of the mafia was a long story. Let's just briefly talk about the Gambino family that Randolph now controlled. Of course, Randolph naturally couldn't be compared to their founder, Gambino. But to be fair, he was definitely a capable godfather of the mafia. Ever since John Gotti took over the Gambino family started to gradually decline. Especially after the large-scale prosecution of the Gambino family by the New York prosecutors, the number of members in the family decreased by a lot. But ever since Randolph took over, the Gambino family's situation took a turn for the better. Before Randolph took over the Gambino family, he had already controlled the shipping industry in New York through profiteering methods. He also manipulated the New York Seamen's Union to blackmail the workers. Under his leadership, the Gambino Mafia family took control of the International Seamen's Association, which represented the interests of 60,000 to 70,000 seamen in North America. Randolph then used violence and bribery to place his family members into important positions in the association. He even blackmailed the International Seamen's Union into using the seamen's medical funds to sign a huge medical contract, so that he could make huge profits. Also, he had been forcefully collecting protection fees from small businesses, seamen and dock workers in New York Harbor for a long time. He also used illegal methods to interfere with the business activities in Brooklyn and Staten Island. Ever since Randolph took over the Gambino family, he led the Gambino family and a few other big families in New York to infiltrate or control many Wall Street brokerage companies. He illegally manipulated the stock prices of more than 20 companies and forcefully sold them to investors to make huge profits. Because of this, Randolph started to be obsessed with making money quickly. The drug business was naturally a must. As long as the police didn't have enough evidence, even if everyone knew that the Gambino family was the biggest drug gang in New York, Randolph didn't care. Smuggling was also a profitable business, so Randolph naturally wouldn't let it go. Of course, other than that, there was also the simplest and most effective illegal method that could cover the entire society: usury. For a wealthy city like New York, many people dreamed of becoming the richest of the rich. Although most of them were daydreaming, there was no lack of capable people. Once Randolph took a liking to someone, he wouldn't be stingy with his loan sharks. However, once someone took Randolph's money, it meant that they would never be able to make a comeback. The terrifyingly high profits made many people unable to repay their debts. In the end, they could only become a member of Randolph's Gambino family. Those who didn't submit would have everything they had forcefully taken away from them and disappear from this world forever. Randolph didn't know how many times he had done this kind of thing. His principle was very simple. As long as it was something beneficial to the Gambino family, he would not let it go. His goal was to become the only godfather in the history of the Gambino family who could surpass the achievements of the first godfather, Gambino. He had become the most famous godfather in the history of the American Mafia. His story had also been made into a movie, and his story had become a story that would be passed down for generations to come. His story had also become an indelible history. Soo-Yun really had to be careful when dealing with such a person. Otherwise, it would be hard to say if he really fell into a trap. Just like what Bai Xiaoya had said, after all, the other party had the advantage in numbers. Right now, there were more than 100 people who directly belonged to the Gambino family, and each of them had more than 100 subordinates. These subordinates also had many capable people around them. This kind of terrifying family model was definitely not to be underestimated. Finally, it was time for the evening meeting. Bai Xiaoya's legs were tired from walking around the central area of New York. She hadn't spent $200. It wasn't because she was thrifty, but because nothing she had set her eyes on could be bought with $200. The Gambino family's fastest way to earn money is through drugs, right? What can be more terrifying than this 3,000% profit? Even lottery tickets aren't that profitable, Bai Xiaoya said. But it's almost impossible to catch them at the scene of their drug deal. Even the New York police can't do anything to them, let alone us. Basically, all the docks in New York belong to the 5 great families. I'm afraid it won't be easy for us to create trouble for them in their business. Soo-Yun nodded in agreement. Indeed, drugs were the Gambino family's greatest source of income. The profits from drugs were simply too high. Furthermore, most of the people who enjoyed it were rich people. Even the poor would think of all sorts of ways to scam, cheat, and steal in order to raise enough money for drugs. When it came to drugs, no one would ever say that they would buy drugs on credit. No drug dealer would buy drugs on credit either. Those who had some money and some background could afford it. At the very least, even if they died from the drugs, they would still have their pride and could afford it. As for those who didn't have much money and had to lower themselves to sell their bodies for drugs every day, what was the point of smoking? They would die in a cowardly manner. Let's leave the matter of catching them in their drug business to the New York police. We can't let the American police follow the corrupt example of some Huaxia police. It's necessary to give them some pressure and a sense of crisis, Su Yin said. Let's look for something that's easy for them to find trouble with. Bai Xiaoya shrugged helplessly. Something that's easy to find trouble with? Will that work? Didn't you say that if the matter is too small, it won't be of any use? After all, Randolph is the godfather of the Gambino family. He can't possibly come out to deal with something so trivial, right? Su Yin smiled meaningfully. Follow me. I'll tell you what kind of matter can make Randolph unable to sit still. Bai Xiaoya was really curious. She followed Su Yin into a taxi. She thought that Su Yin was going to bring her somewhere, but she didn't expect Su Yin to bring her to a restaurant called Daniel. This restaurant was known as a wonder of the catering industry. The chef combined his imagination with the food, creating a lot of food with a unique taste, which satisfied many diners. The decoration of the restaurant was also very much in the style of the Renaissance. After all, the matter at night was risky. Su Yin wouldn't mistreat his sister on this last dinner. It would be a little inappropriate for them to eat hamburgers. No matter what, they had to eat something good. Bai Xiaoya didn't expect Su Yin to be so considerate. After the food, the two of them got to the main topic. They went straight to the entrance of the Gambino family's venture capital company on Wall Street. Although the Americans were busy and the pace of life on Wall Street was quite fast, they definitely didn't have the habit of working overtime. They liked to finish their work during working hours and have a good rest during break time. This was called living. Of course, when the company got off work, Wall Street was still brightly lit. After all, there were companies that worked overtime. Usually these companies that had worked overtime had some shameful things to do. For example, in this loan shark company of the Gambino family, there would always be some special matters to deal with at night. At this moment, Randolph's right-hand man, Wesley, was sitting in front of a spacious office chair. He repeatedly ran his fingers through the few strands of hair on his head. That's right, he was bald. He hated people with beautiful hair the most. However, the person kneeling in front of him now was an Asian man with glossy hair. It was obvious that he was unwilling to kneel, but there was nothing he could do. Wesley's subordinates all had guns in their hands, and he knew very well how many people from the Gambino family were in this company. Ever since he received his first sum of money from the Gambino family's venture capital company, he started to regret it. However, it was all too late. After starting his business for so many years, the Gambino family had already collected hundreds of millions of USD in interest from him. He had only borrowed 10 million USD back then. Chapter 1135. Wesley had an unfathomable smile on his face. His right index finger tapped the table lightly, as if waiting for the man kneeling in front of him to say something. The Asian man kneeling in front of him finally opened his mouth. I really don't have any more money to continue repaying. Sir, all these years, I've worked my heart out in this business. 2 years ago, I already repaid the 10 million USD capital from Godfather, as well as the 23 million US dollars interest. But these 2 years, you still won't let me go. Cui Zhijing, I think you've really forgotten your roots. Wesley laughed coldly. That year, when Godfather gave you 10 million, you had nothing. He trusted you so much. Do you think 23 million US dollars interest is enough? Furthermore, I remember that 2 years ago, when you repaid the money, Godfather only took back the 10 million USD capital. As for the interest, he said you could continue to use it. Hearing this, Cui Zhijing was a little emotional. That's what Godfather said at that time. But he didn't say that he would continue to charge me interest for this money. Slap. Wesley slapped the table fiercely. Are you talking to me loudly? Slap me. Boss Chui, you have to think carefully. But you owe us money. It's not me who owes you money. Seeing Wesley's stern face, Chui Zhijing did not dare to be rash. The other party had so many guns pointed at his head. Do you think Godfather gave you the $23 million for nothing? Have you ever thought about what we do for a living? Wesley said, we do business. Godfather is not a philanthropist. Of course, there must be interest for this money too. Godfather will continue to let you use it. That's your honor. But this interest is too high, right? Chui Zhijing spoke without much confidence. I've already repaid hundreds of millions of USD because of this 23 million. Now you want to give me so much money to settle it all at once. I really don't have that much money. Wesley laughed coldly. You can sell the company and all your fixed assets. It's impossible to not get enough money. Then I'll have nothing. Chui Zhijing exclaimed. Didn't you have nothing back then too? Wesley snorted. Why? You're used to the life of a rich person and don't want to be poor anymore? Then scram back to your motherland, North Korea. This is New York, the law of the jungle. It's not like your Jiangnan district, where a random fatty can make millions just by doing a horse dance. Chui Zhijing was afraid. He was afraid that he would become someone who had nothing. Mr. Wesley, give me another chance. Leave me some money. Can I continue to borrow? Just think of it as me returning the money to my godfather, and then lending it to me, okay? Wesley raised his head and laughed loudly. Ha 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 ha. Chui Zhijing, I just said that my godfather is not a philanthropist. You are not the same as you used to be. Chui Zhijing, you had the ability, the drive, and the determination to make a name for yourself on Wall Street. That's why Godfather appreciates you, thinks highly of you, and knows that lending you money won't go to waste. I can do it now too. I really can. I beg you, Mr. Wesley. Please tell Godfather that I still won't let him down. Chui Zhijing knelt on the ground and moved 2 steps forward, but he was immediately forced to stop by the guns raised by the people around him. Now, Wesley smiled disapprovingly. What do you think you have now? You are no longer the Chui Zhijing who was full of drive back then. Ever since you were swallowed by the huge pressure on Wall Street, you would do anything for money. The huge pressure made you unable to breathe. You could only use marijuana, crystal meth, and all kinds of heroin to relieve the huge pressure in your heart. Chui Zhijing was stunned. He had been addicted to drugs for more than a year. In this year, his drug addiction doubled every month. Wesley stopped smiling. Do you think we don't know what kind of state you are in now? Chui Zhijing, while you still have enough money to repay your debt and haven't been ruined by your drug addiction, it's better to return it to your godfather as soon as possible. Otherwise, this little life of yours might not be able to wait for your next drug addiction to act up. Chui Zhijing's entire body was almost paralyzed. Wesley was right. Randolph was definitely not a philanthropist. He knew that there was profit to be made, so he lent money to Chui Zhijing. If Chui Zhijing could always maintain himself as a money-making machine, he might have been recruited by Randolph to become a core member of the Gambino family. However, it was a pity that Chui Zhijing was suppressed by the huge pressure on Wall Street and could not adjust himself. He walked the path of drugs. Once he stepped on this path of no return, he was considered to be crippled. Randolph could not believe that the money in his hands could be invested in the hands of a drug addict and still be able to earn double. The Gambino family's biggest business was smuggling drugs in Latin America. Thus, he was very clear about what a drug addict would become in the end. Rather than letting Chui Zhijing lose his family assets, company, and all his money on drugs, it was better to hand it all over to him now. Let this person who was capable but could not withstand the temptation of the big world and the huge pressure from Wall Street become a pauper again. Perhaps this was his fate in this life. Wesley pushed a contract in front of Chui Zhijing. Sign this contract and everything you have will be transferred to us, including all your savings and fixed assets. Because you have to leave New York and go back to Korea. Do you understand what I mean? After pausing for a while, Wesley continued. If you don't sign it, then don't blame me for being rude to you now. After saying that, Wesley directly took a gun from his subordinate beside him and pointed it directly at Chui Zhijing's head. I will really kill. Cui Zhijing's mind was blank. He did not think about anything at all, and signed his name on the paper that Wesley pushed to him. He did not even look at what kind of contract it was. After Cui Zhijing finished writing, Wesley's face finally revealed a satisfied smile. Boss Cui, this is your will. Do you want to take a look at it again? Well, what did that mean? Cui Zhijing's mind was blank. He raised his head and looked at Wesley in a daze. On the other hand, Wesley stood up slowly and walked to Cui Zhijing. He took out a snow-white square handkerchief from his pocket and gently covered Cui Zhijing's face. Cui Zhijing knew that he could not avoid everything that was going to happen. Wesley pressed the handkerchief between Cui Zhijing's eyebrows with the handkerchief in between. He gently pulled the trigger. After the gunshot, the handkerchief covering Cui Zhijing's face was slowly soaked with blood. On the wall behind Cui Zhijing's head, there were traces of blood that spurted out. Wesley returned the handkerchief to his subordinate and said calmly, "Change the wallpaper on the wall immediately tonight. Drag the corpse back to his house and create the illusion of suicide. Be careful, don't leave any evidence. Understand?" Understood. A few of his subordinates nodded. After saying that, Wesley picked up the will that Cui Zhijing signed and muttered to himself, "I really did not expect that this kid could still let Godfather earn such a large sum of money before he died. It would be better if there were more people like him in Wall Street in the future." Just when Wesley thought that everything was fine, the office door was pushed open. A man and a woman walked in one after another. The man had a strange smile on his face, while the woman's face was cold and heartless. However, one had to admit that this woman looked good. She could be called a perfect Oriental beauty. Chapter 1136. As expected of the capable subordinate of the Gambino family's godfather Randolph. You're very ruthless when doing things, not leaving any future troubles. There was still a smile on Su Yun's face. Su Yun and Bai Xiaoya had heard and seen what had happened earlier. They had been in for over 10 minutes. Of course, there were still many bodyguards in the Gambino family's investment and wealth management company. All of them were personally trained by Wesley. They were very skilled and ruthless. However, they had met their match today. Su Yun and Bai Xiaoya did not even show their faces. They settled all of them with just a few coins. It was so quiet that the people in the room did not hear any sounds from outside. Therefore, the moment Su Yun and Bai Xiaoya pushed open the door to Wesley's office, everyone in the room was stunned. "Friend, you are?" Wesley was a veteran who had been around for many years. He knew very well that the other party was not an ordinary person since they had the ability to appear in front of him. Therefore, he did not draw his sword immediately. Instead, he raised his hand and gestured for his men to put down their guns and not hurt their relationship. "I'm just a small character. Even if I tell you, Mr. Wesley will definitely not have heard of me." Su Yun still had a calm smile on his face. "Although the night is dark and the wind is strong, you dare to kill people in the office. Mr. Wesley, if you work overtime here, don't you feel afraid? When people die with grievances, there will be vengeful spirits. I've seen American dramas before. Isn't The Power of Evil a story about vengeful spirits? Have you seen it before? Oh right, is the 10th season going to be broadcast soon?" Cough cough. Bai Xiaoya heard that Su Yun had gone off topic and immediately coughed twice to remind him. Su Yun quickly stopped, scratched his head, and smiled embarrassedly. The corners of Wesley's lips twitched slightly. He had never encountered such a situation before, and was completely confused by the two people in front of him. "I'm not afraid of vengeful spirits. I'm not even afraid of them when they're alive. Why would I be afraid when they're dead? Stop joking. Clap 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 clap." Su Yun applauded. "Mr. Wesley is so brave." Wesley frowned. He was obviously impatient. "I work overtime in this office at night. The only thing I have to do is to kill people. No wonder there are so many vengeful spirits in this house." Su Yun shook his head and murmured to himself, "I sense the strong resentment even from 100 miles away. Now that I've come here, as expected, there are so many people in this room. It's too crowded." Su Yun's crazy words not only made Wesley and his subordinates dumbfounded, but even Bai Xiaoya was at a loss. The brother in the corner, if you really can't stand, go sit on the windowsill, Su-yin said to the air in the corner of the room. After saying that, the window on the windowsill made a sound of collision. The faces of everyone in the room changed. Wesley's subordinates aimed their guns at the windowsill, but they did not see anything. Bai Xiaoya had goosebumps all over her body. She thought about how someone had just died in this room. Now that Su-yin said that, who would not be scared? Who exactly are you? Wesley said angrily. This person could make his subordinates uneasy with just a few words. He was really unpredictable. I'm a demon hunter, the kind that specializes in catching ghosts. Su-yin purposely lowered his voice and even pointed at Bai Xiaoya. This is my assistant, my partner. Although she's a girl, she's very good at hunting demons. There are too many evil spirits in your room. I can't handle them all by myself. Bai Xiaoya knew that Su-yin was spouting nonsense, but he still felt nervous in the middle of the night, not to mention the people in the room. Countless people like Cui Zhijing had died in this room. It was too many to count. If you want to keep your lives, it's best to cooperate with me. Su-yun's expression was on point. At this time he pulled a close-up shot and gave a big close-up. He had to win the title of Best Actor. As the saying went, some things were better off believing them, not believing them. Although Wesley really did not want to listen to the words of this so-called demon hunter in front of him, when he said to the air for someone to sit on the window really did make a sound. If this did not happen, it would be fine. However, under such circumstances, Wesley could only believe it. Say it. Wesley was very careful as he faced the air around the room. After the other party said that the room was filled with evil spirits, he did not want to stay here for another minute. However, this was his office. He could not possibly tell his godfather that too many people had died in his office, and that it was filled with evil spirits. He did not dare to work here anymore, right? After all, they were gangsters, who did not have a murder case. For this matter, it would be best to borrow the help of this demon hunter today to get rid of all the evil spirits in the office. In the future he would not kill people here. He would go to the seaside and directly throw them into the sea after getting rid of them. They would be lonely souls in the sea. Then, they would not be able to find trouble with him. Did you know that the evil spirit of the person you killed just now did not leave because he had something on his mind? He wanted to take his things away. Su-yin made up a story. The thing in your hands, that will, he did not want to sign. You forced him. Hence, if you don't return it to him, he will definitely not leave. He will always follow you. He will follow you home. Go to the toilet with you. Even if you go to bed to sleep, he will also follow you too. Enough. Stop talking. As Randolph's right-hand man, Wesley was definitely not a cowardly person. However, these words sounded really scary. How should I deal with it? Very simple. Just burn the will in your hands. Su-yin said. His will went to another world. He left with it and will not bother you anymore. Wesley was furious. Impossible. If we burn this, he will have nothing to do with us. If there is someone to inherit his things, they will be inherited by the successor. If there is no one to inherit, they will become social welfare funds. Do you think that money or your life is more important? Su-yin said. As he spoke, he suddenly pointed at the air and said, Hey, where are you going? The windowsill can't fit two people. Just when everyone was looking at the air that Su-yin pointed at in a daze, there was the sound of someone bumping into the window again. If not for the fact that the members in this room were all evil mafias, ordinary people would have been scared stiff. Bai Xiaoya, who was an atheist, was shocked by Su-yin and broke out in a cold sweat. Not to mention these mafias who had ulterior motives. Hey, what are you two discussing? Su-yin looked at the empty windowsill and said helplessly, Don't think about those harmful things anymore. I will ask them to burn the will for you. Your things are still yours. Don't bother with them. Leave early. Wesley finally could not take it anymore. He turned around and aimed his gun at the windowsill and fired 2 shots. The glass of the window shattered and scattered all over the floor. The 2 gunshots seemed to have made his men sober up. They focused all their attention and aimed at these 2 uninvited guests. What evil spirits! They were not as scary as humans. In this world, humans were the scariest creatures. This was what the mafias believed. Boss, the sound of the window just now was caused by these things. One of his subordinates suddenly pointed at two unknown objects that appeared out of nowhere on the ground. Clearly, these two objects were shot out by Su Yun's hand, which caused the sound of someone crashing into the window. Chapter 1137. When Su Yun saw that he was exposed, he could only smile awkwardly at Bai Xiaoya. He was trying to save trouble. It might be easier to solve the problem by fooling them first. The price of fooling them was that numerous pistols were pointed at Su Yun and Bai Xiaoya's heads. They pulled the trigger without hesitation. Luckily, Su Yun knew that the mafia was quick and clean. They would definitely not drag their feet. That was why he pushed Bai Xiaoya behind the safety bunker before the gunshots could be heard. His figure flashed, and he rushed directly into Wesley's office. Those who had experienced it all knew that when fighting with someone who was stabbing you with a knife, it was definitely not close combat. In close combat, the opponent would stab you one time. However, when fighting with someone who was using a gun, no matter how far you ran, you would not be able to outrun the opponent's pull of the trigger. Especially in this kind of room, the small space could limit the firing of guns. Moreover, when the side with the gun had the advantage in numbers, they would not have the advantage in a narrow space. Humans were dependent. When a person was used to being able to kill someone by simply pulling the trigger, they would become dependent on guns. In a country like the United States where citizens had the right to carry guns, most people had this kind of dependence. With a gun in their hands, they would not think of other ways to subdue the enemy. Su Yun made use of their mentality. Because all of them had pistols in their hands, the only way they could think of to subdue Su Yun was to use pistols. However, in such a small place like the office, there were many of them, and Su Yun's movements were agile. They could not shoot at all. Once they opened fire, the probability of hitting Su Yun was only 1%. However, the probability of hitting their own people was as high as 99%. Wesley was in this room, so his subordinates did not dare to shoot even if they were beaten to death. However, since they had pistols in their hands, they did not know how to use their brains. They gave up on the pistols and fought hand to hand. Therefore, they could only follow Su Yun's figure and aim here and there with their pistols. Throughout the entire process, only Wesley had fired 2 shots, but Su Yun had subdued him in the blink of an eye. Wesley did not even realize how the pistol in his hand disappeared. His own pistol was pressed against his own head. The feeling of having his own pistol pressed against his head was definitely a special feeling. As for what kind of feeling it was, perhaps only Wesley himself would know. To catch bandits, first catch the ringleader. The mafia was a hierarchical organization. When the superiors were controlled, the subordinates would have no opinions at all. This was the reason why Su Yun wanted to meet Randolph. Gu Guolong was such an important person. Without Randolph's approval, Su Yun wouldn't be able to meet him, let alone find him in such a big city like New York. You should give me the will now, right? Su Yun smiled slightly and said to Wesley calmly. Wesley had a gun pressed against his head. Although his body did not dare to move recklessly, as a small leader of the Gambino family, his aura and backbone were still there. Looks like you guys are Koreans who are related to Cui Zijing. Hee, friend. You dare to take the initiative to provoke the Gambino family. I believe you don't know much about New York, right? Indeed, I don't know much. I don't even know when the Statue of Liberty was built. After Su Yun finished speaking, he suddenly aimed at Wesley's left calf and shot. The bullet mercilessly shot into Wesley's calf. The FN 9mm high-powered pistol was really powerful. The bullet directly pierced through Wesley's calf. After all, the human body was made of flesh. The immense pain made Wesley's left leg go soft, and he directly knelt on the ground with one knee. Su Yun fired. Wesley's subordinates must have panicked. Their superior was shot in front of their eyes. This was definitely their negligence. However, they still only dared to aim their pistols at Su Yun. They did not dare to pull the trigger. Because the moment Wesley knelt on one knee, Su Yun once again aimed the pistol directly at his skull. If this shot was fired, the bullet would directly enter Wesley's head and come out from his chin. The head did not have muscles like the calf. With this shot, it would definitely be like a watermelon blooming. His outcome would definitely be worse than Cui Zhijing, who had his head shot just now. Naturally, no one dared to bet on speed with Su Yun. Speaking of which, this Wesley was really a tough guy. His calf was shot, but he gritted his teeth and did not make a sound. Just based on this strength alone, it was not something that an ordinary person could endure. If not for the fact that he was a ruthless mafia member, Su Yun would rather admire him. I know you guys don't dare to fire. If you don't dare to fire, then put down your guns so that your boss won't suffer. Su Yun did not have any expression on his face. He said to Wesley's underlings, I will count to 3. If you guys don't put down your guns, I will shoot his left shoulder. After pausing for a while, Su Yun said again, Look at my eyes. Do I look like I'm lying to you? Wesley's underlings' Adam's apple bobbed, and they swallowed their saliva madly. 1. After Su Yun finished speaking, he did not give them any time to think at all. To whoosh. Wesley's underlings raised their hands almost at the same time. Then, they slowly squatted down and carefully placed their pistols on the ground. Su Yun did not ask them to kick their pistols away. If any of them had any strange movements, he had enough time to deal with them. It did not matter. Wesley did not say a word throughout the entire process. He was indeed a small leader of the American Mafia. He had seen a lot of swords and knives. He did not cower just because a gun was pointed at his head. You don't dare to kill me, Wesley suddenly said. Why? Su Yun provoked him. Which eye of yours can tell that I don't dare to kill you? Wesley was still very confident. Unless you want to get yourself into trouble and become the enemy of the entire New York Mafia, you won't kill me. What exactly do you want? Say it. You're quite confident. Su Yun laughed in disdain. Let me tell you. The place where your leg was penetrated is only a little away from the artery. I just need to kick you once, and it will cause you to bleed profusely. Then you will die very quickly. No one was not afraid of death. There was no doubt about this. Even those who lived on the edge of a knife were the same. However, how one died was quite important. If Wesley died mysteriously because of the rupture of his artery, he would definitely not be able to accept it. Cui Zhijing is already a dead man. He signed the will. All of this belongs to the Gambino family. If you want to have a share of the profits, sure. Wesley said. I can give you 5% of the profits. This way, Godfather will not be alarmed, and no one will find trouble with you. You can take a considerable amount of money and leave America. I will treat today's matter as if nothing happened. Su Yun grinned. Big brother, your life is in my hands now. Even if there are conditions, I should be the one to raise them, right? It won't be your turn no matter what, right? Wesley also had a bottom line. Ever since the Gambino family regained its glory in their generation, not many people dared to speak to him like this and raise conditions with him. However, he was not prepared today. He had really lost. He admitted his loss. Okay. Raise your conditions. How much do you want? Wesley said. I have already warned you. If you are not afraid of losing your life to spend the money, then just say it. My conditions are very simple. I want Godfather to be alarmed. Su Yun's reply was straightforward. With a cold laugh, he tore the will into shreds. As pieces of shredded paper scattered all over the floor, it meant that everything about Cui Zhijing had nothing to do with the Gambino family. The Gambino family would not be able to get anything from this person. Are you crazy? Wesley was almost hysterical as he roared. How could he not alarm Godfather? Putting aside the fact that this young man who did not know his place would die a horrible death, even he would be punished for his incompetence. Chapter 1138. Do you know the consequences of alerting Godfather? Wesley lost his rationality temporarily. He hysterically questioned the man who was still pointing a gun at his head. He even completely forgot that he was still under the control of the other party. Su Yun frowned. It seemed that the consequences of alerting Randolph were very serious. Otherwise, Wesley would not be so angry. However, what was done could not be undone. Things had reached an irreversible stage. No matter how capable Wesley was, it was impossible for him to revive Cui Zhijing and draw up a new will for him to sign. There was only one copy of the will. There were no backups. Su Yun tore it up without any hesitation. This involves not only the problem of money. Godfather is a person who cares about his reputation. You dared to ruin his plans in his territory and tear up what he wants. Even if it is just a piece of white paper that is not worth a single cent, it is equivalent to tearing up his reputation. Wesley said, "You will definitely regret doing this. However, I will also be implicated by you. Godfather will blame me for not doing my job well." Su Yun frowned. Big brother. Why didn't you say it was so serious earlier? Is there any way to salvage the situation? There is no way to salvage the situation at all. Today, Wesley, have failed miserably. You can kill me or torture me as you wish. However, I can tell you clearly that even if you escape to the ends of the earth, Godfather will catch you and bring you back. He will kill you personally. Wesley said coldly. It seemed that Randolph cared a lot about his reputation. Since there was no way to salvage the situation, Su Yun was relieved. He nodded and said, that's good. Since there is no way to salvage the situation, then this trip was not in vain." Wesley was completely shocked by Su Yun's crazy words. He felt that it was really unbelievable. How could there be such a person in the world? Was he not afraid of death at all? Could it be that in his eyes, Godfather did not have any deterrence? How many people on his path would tremble at the mention of his Godfather's name? How many influential people did not even dare to raise their eyes in front of the Godfather? How many people's faces would change when they heard the Godfather's name, because they could not bear it? But when this guy heard that his Godfather would never let him go and would personally make him beg for death, there was no room for redemption. Instead, he was very excited. "Wesley, you're injured too. You should have treated your wounds first. But I think you'd better report to Godfather first. I'll wait for him here." Su Yun smiled. "I suggest you do as I say. Otherwise, if you take care of me on behalf of Godfather, he will suspect that you want to keep everything to yourself and find a scapegoat." These words were not false at all. Even if Wesley now had the ability to gather people to chop Su Yun into minced meat, he would definitely not do that. Once Su Yun died, there was no way to explain the will that Su Yun had torn to shreds. Only a lunatic would do such a crazy thing. He must keep this madman alive to see the Godfather. Only then would he be able to clear his name. Wesley wanted to say something, but at that moment he could not organize his words. He was stunned when he opened his mouth. Su Yun nodded. "I'll wait here. If I want to leave, I'm afraid the few of you can't stop me." After saying that, Su Yun waved his hand. 5 coins lined up in a straight line and shot deeply into the wall. They could not be dug out even if they wanted to. If these coins were shot on a person's body, the power would not be weaker than a bullet, right? Cold sweat finally appeared on Wesley's forehead. It seemed that this guy really had some skills. The ancient East was indeed full of talents. "You're from Huaxia?" Wesley suddenly realized that this guy definitely had nothing to do with Cui Zhijing. Back then, after Bruce Lee let the Americans know what Kung Fu was, the Americans would forever remember this word. Hence, once they saw someone with extraordinary strength, they would be very sure that the other party was from Huaxia. Su Yun clapped his hands. "Good eyesight. Good. I'm impressed." Wesley said, "Since I'm going to see Godfather, you should leave a name for me, right?" "Sudada." Su Yun nodded and said, "Easy to remember." Sudade. Wesley repeated twice. This Huaxia's name was indeed easy to remember. It was much easier to remember than the name of the Huaxia he met last time. Niqc. Wesley was ready to leave, but he was a little worried. He wanted to leave 2 of his subordinates behind to watch. However, he thought about it carefully. Even if he left everyone behind, they would not be a match for the other party. If the other party wanted to trick them into leaving and then escape, it would be better to just cripple all of them, and then leave. Moreover, the other party's purpose this time was not for money. This made Wesley even more puzzled. No matter what, the most important thing now was to report the situation to Godfather. Everything would be up to him to decide. After Wesley appeared in a sorry state and brought such shocking news, Randolph was naturally quite shocked. He did not dare to believe that such an arrogant young man existed. However, looking at the gunshot wound on Wesley's leg that had not been treated in time and his fearful expression, he realized that Wesley would not lie to him. That young man and woman, are they still in your office now? Randolph was indeed a sly old fox. Wesley nodded. Yes, Godfather. That's good. There's nothing for you to do here. Go and treat your injured leg first. Randolph said calmly. Rest well these few days. Don't think too much. This matter is not your fault. You don't have to feel any psychological pressure or burden. Wesley did not dare to believe that Godfather would say this. This made him put down the huge rock in his heart. After Wesley left, the young white man who had been standing beside Randolph said, Godfather, I'll go and capture them for you. No. Randolph raised his hand and gestured for him not to do this. I want you to go and invite them back. Take note, really invite them back. Politely invite them back. Not capture them. I want to see what tricks these two young men and women can play in front of me. Ha ha. I'm afraid they have an expert behind them. They dare to challenge the Gambino family. Interesting. Yes. After the young white man received the order, he walked out of the villa. Su Yun and Bai Xiaoye sat in the Gambino family's loan shark company and waited in boredom. Brother, are you so confident that the mafia will come back and invite you back? Bai Xiaoye could not understand where Su Yun's confidence came from. Having a younger sister call him brother so easily made him feel very comfortable. Su Yun smiled smugly. That's because the godfather of the Gambino family isn't something that just anyone can become. To become the godfather of such a large family, one has to be rather shrewd. He'll definitely be an old fox. An old fox wouldn't be so stupid as to rashly fly into a rage without knowing anything about the situation. Just because of this? You dare to say that they will come and invite you back? Bai Xiaoye still could not understand. Forget it. I won't think about it anymore. I hope you're right. Don't send a helicopter here and level this place with a missile. This is Wall Street. Su Yun reached out and touched Bai Xiaoye's head. Are you having a fever? Have you watched too many American blockbusters? Do you think you're Mr. and Mrs. Smith? F***CKU. Bai Xiaoye glared at Su Yun. Chapter 1139. A young man with skin color that was considered extremely white among Caucasians had appeared in the Gambino family's loan shark company. His skin color made him appear extremely sickly, as if he was on the verge of death. Hello. The extremely white young man greeted Su Yun simply. This man and woman were indeed extraordinary. To think that they could still stay here and chat with each other after offending the Gambino family. Su Yun's reply was even simpler. All right. Godfather asked me to invite the two of you over. The extremely white young man said politely. The 20-odd members of the Gambino family's mafia behind him all took a step back, opening up a neat path for them. Su Yun looked at this scene and grinned. Brother, you're not joking, right? From the looks of it, it seems like you're going to bring me away to be shot, and then find a place where there's no one around to bury me. Godfather will naturally treat you with great importance, the extremely white young man said nonchalantly. This is also Godfather's etiquette. Sir, please. All of you have pistols stuffed into your waists. Do you need them to invite people? Bai Xiaoye did not believe that the other party would really be so good-tempered. Just from how Wesley had killed without batting an eyelid, she could guess how vicious and merciless the Gambino family's mafia was. The extremely white young man threw a glance at Bai Xiaoye. This is America. Any American citizen has the right to carry a gun. As long as we haven't been sanctioned or restricted by the country's laws, and the country doesn't forbid us from carrying guns, there's no problem for us to carry guns. Miss, you're thinking too much. If Godfather wanted to harm the two of you, he wouldn't have asked me to invite the two of you over. In that case, you're considered a top figure in New York's underworld. Su Yun clicked his tongue. You're young and capable. You're young and capable. May I know how I should address you? Eric, the extremely white young man said slowly. Oh my, what the heck? Su Yun was shocked. It turned out that the sickly-looking guy in front of him was actually a big shot in the United States. This guy's name was known all over the world. The huge white youth Eric was the famous great white shark of New York in the Western underground world. It was not an exaggeration to say that he was the great white shark of New York. It was rumored that there was no one in New York that he did not dare to bite. Those who were bitten by him would definitely not have any bones left. However, Suyin had never heard of New York's great white shark Eric joining the Gambino family. Eric, I've heard a lot about you. Suyin smiled. Logically speaking, I shouldn't refuse my godfather's invitation. But I think it's better for godfather to personally ask me for help. Only then will I feel at ease. You don't really think that you're that important, do you? Eric laughed coldly. It must be Wesley who told you. Godfather will definitely investigate this matter personally. Suyin nodded. That's right. What's your motive? Eric's gaze became colder and colder. Kill Godfather? Ha ha ha, you think too highly of me. Randolph is the most powerful of the 5 big families in the New York Mafia. If I came to New York to kill him, wouldn't I be looking for trouble? Suyin smiled. Although I don't really care about my lowly life, I won't come here to seek death for no reason. Eric was a little confused. If you're not here to seek death, then why did you make us lose so much for no reason? If I didn't do this, would Godfather know that there's someone like me? Suyin smiled slightly. If I only killed 1 or 2 small members of your family, and casually raided a few of your shops, Godfather probably wouldn't have asked you, the great white shark, to come here personally, right? Eric was stunned for a moment. Obviously, he couldn't believe that this young man from the East knew his name. After a pause, Eric said, It seems that we're on the same side. If that's the case, if you don't give me face, we'll solve this problem according to our own rules. Suyin didn't reply. This was a good opportunity. If he could kill the great white shark, Randolph would definitely sit down and have a good talk with him about Gu Guolong. You're not qualified to fight with my brother. Bai Xiaoya had already stood in front of Eric. The East was different from the West. The East was particular about Kung Fu. 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 The East focused on Kung Fu. A grandmaster once said, Kung Fu. Kung Fu was one word, horizontal and vertical. If you're right, you'll stand. If you're wrong, you'll fall. It might be difficult for foreigners to understand. If you're standing, it's vertical, and if you're lying, it's horizontal. Suyin didn't stop Bai Xiaoya from volunteering. He believed in Bai Xiaoya's strength. After all, she was his stepmother. She was a super expert personally trained by Empress Zuolingyue, the #1 figure in the East's underground world. Even if she met a super expert of the same level, he believed that Bai Xiaoya would be more experienced. The East and the West had different standards for experts. The West didn't care about super experts, grandmasters, or Sky Xian or Earth Xian experts. They only cared about the simple ranks of fighters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Those who could enter the professional boxing world were level 1 boxers. Those who dared to gamble their lives in the underground boxing world were generally level 2 boxers. Boxers who could win professional boxing titles were considered level 3 boxers. Only those who could sit firmly in the underground boxing world for a year, and not be beaten to death by challengers in 12 challenges over 12 months, could be considered a level 4 fighter. If one had to draw an equal sign between the East and the West, a level 5 fighter should be on par with a super expert. The strength of New York's great white shark had long been fixed at the position of a 6th-grade boxer. Bai Xiaoya was facing a seemingly sick white man. He was definitely not someone to be trifled with. Bai Xiaoya made the first move. She was used to striking first since she was young. She was completely influenced by Zuolingyue. Those who knew martial arts knew that martial arts combine Sanzhou to form routines. However, most of the moves in martial arts had to wait for the opponent to make the first move before you had the chance to show off your Sanzhou. What if your opponent was also waiting for you to make the first move? What should you do? Don't you need to fight? Therefore, Zuolingyue taught her to strike first. She didn't want Bai Xiaoya to learn simple but effective straight kicks and uppercuts. That was too unladylike. Martial arts routines were originally used by sects to teach their disciples the basic moves. Simply put, it was to let people remember them, and then apply them flexibly in a fight. What did it mean to apply them flexibly? Step on the feet when you should step on the feet, and hit the crotch when you should hit the crotch. You could only use it when your opponent made a move and you happened to have a solution in your routine. For example, if the opponent made a low leg, you could use the Tai Chi Tangjung. Zhuolingyue's words were very reasonable. Actual combat was actual combat, and boxing was boxing. If both sides wanted to strike first, they would find that one side couldn't help but strike first. Moreover, striking first didn't mean that she was at a disadvantage. So why didn't she just be the one who always struck first? Chapter 1140. Eric was caught off guard by Bai Xiaoya's preemptive strike. He didn't pay much attention to Bai Xiaoya. From the beginning to the end, his main focus was on Su Yun. He didn't expect this seemingly weak girl to make a move on him. Eric, who was caught off guard, took a few steps back. Although he wasn't hurt, he was completely shocked by the girl's skills. What? Are you scared? Fight back. Bai Xiaoya didn't care if her opponent was still in a daze. She continued to attack. Her leg whipped towards Eric as fast as lightning. Eric had nowhere to retreat. He could only raise his arms to block the kick. When Eric's arms were numbed by Bai Xiaoya's kick, he realized that he had underestimated his opponent. Although the girl looked delicate, she didn't need his pity at all. This logic was similar to how a person might look sickly, but the person who wanted to fight with him knew that he only looked sickly on the surface. If he really wanted to kill someone, he wouldn't hesitate. All of a sudden, Eric switched from defense to offense and grabbed Bai Xiaoya's ankle with his palm. Exerting force, he flung Bai Xiaoya away. However, Bai Xiaoya was as light as a swallow. Although she was flung away, she tapped on the wall with the tip of her foot and used the momentum to turn around and attack Eric's face. Eric was, after all, a 6th-grade boxer. His reaction speed and coordination were quite good. He dodged Bai Xiaoya's punch and countered with an uppercut, aiming for Bai Xiaoya's chin without any care for the fact that she was a woman. If this punch landed, Bai Xiaoya's face would definitely be disfigured by the strength of a 6th-grade fighter. However, Bai Xiaoya's body flipped back in an unbelievable position, and Eric's punch missed completely. You're so ruthless. You don't have any pity at all. Su Yun grinned. He was so shocked that he broke out in a cold sweat. If it weren't for Bai Xiaoya's unbelievably flexible body, her chin would have been broken. Bai Xiaoya was also scared after thinking about it. Her back was drenched in cold sweat. Although it seemed that Bai Xiaoya had gained the upper hand, Eric still had the upper hand. After all, other than taking a few steps back at the beginning, he didn't move an inch during the whole fight. This guy's lower body was really stable. Again. Of course, Bai Xiaoya wouldn't admit defeat. She got into a fighting stance and was about to charge forward. Su Yun grabbed Bai Xiaoya's arm. Let me do it. If I hurt your face, I won't be able to answer to my stepmother. Stepmother? Bai Xiaoya was speechless. As her biological daughter, she couldn't even call her mother. Su Yun's way of calling her was quite intimate. Brother, it's not a skill to bully women. Su Yun smiled and walked in front of Eric. He didn't want Bai Xiaoya to take the risk. Although Bai Xiaoya might win, it was too dangerous. The strength of a level 6 boxer was too terrifying. Even he didn't want to take a direct hit, let alone Bai Xiaoya. If a man took a hit, it would be fine as long as he protected his manhood. However, it was different for a woman. Just her face was important enough. Then let's have a duel between men. Eric was now full of curiosity about Su Yun. It was not an exaggeration to say that this guy was half a martial arts fanatic. Other than when he was working for his godfather, Eric spent almost all his time training his strength and speed. It was as if he couldn't survive if he didn't do it. His words were pretty straightforward, huh? Su Yun sneered. Alright, I'll let you know what a man is. Huaxia Kung Fu focused on controlling the opponent after the attack, but Western boxing focused on taking the initiative to attack. Facing Su Yun, Eric completely unleashed his powerful fighting strength. He arched his legs and jumped up explosively. His fist was like an arrow that shot out explosively, directly smashing towards Su Yun's face. When a normal person faced such a fast punch, their first choice would be to dodge. The best result would be a loss for both sides. However, when Eric mentioned that it was a duel between men, it completely ignited the ruthlessness in Su Yun's heart. He didn't even think about dodging the punch. Instead, he stabilized his lower body in a horse stance, and his right fist suddenly drilled out from his waist. Facing Eric's fist, he blocked it. Eric had never met such an opponent in all his years. However, what was done could not be undone. He couldn't stop even if he wanted to. He had poured all his strength into this punch. The moment the two fists collided, Eric's expression turned ferocious. Su Yun's fist also felt numb from the pain. What great strength! As expected of a level 6 boxer. Just with this pair of fists, he would definitely have a high status and prestige in the Gambino family. After the instantaneous punch, neither of them made another move. At that moment, the victor was decided. After Eric endured for a few seconds, he couldn't help but use his right hand to hug his left arm. This punch of Su Yun's earlier forcefully shattered the bones of his entire arm. Eric's left fist was now completely crippled. The bones in his fingers had probably been completely shattered. Eric had never seen or heard of this kind of punching power. Su Yun didn't give Eric a chance to speak. He also didn't care that Eric didn't have any ability to fight back. He went forward and pressed Eric to the ground with a choke hold. None of the 20-odd people who came with him dared to move. This was because Eric didn't give any orders. After all, his godfather had told him to invite Su Yun, not hurt him. Therefore, although there were many people outside, none of them dared to stop Su Yun. Crippling your left hand is equivalent to crippling you. Crippling you is equivalent to crippling Godfather's right-hand man. This time, does he have to come and invite me personally? Su Yun sneered. Eric, you've been notorious for a long time. How many Huaxia people have come to America to earn a living in the underground boxing market? I think you know better than I do. Other than Caucasian boxers, people of other skin colors don't deserve to earn a living in New York's underground boxing. People are divided into different classes. Eric was definitely a typical racist. He looked down on anyone who wasn't Caucasian. This was the reason for his notoriety. Boxers of other skin colors who wanted to earn a living in New York's underground boxing had all died under his fists. Although underground boxing was a gamble of life, most of the time, once the opponent admitted defeat, they would be given a way out. However, Eric didn't think so. Caucasian boxers had the right to be given a way out. As for the others, he didn't care. As long as he seized the opportunity, he would definitely kill them with one blow. Countless people of other skin colors had died under his hands. This kind of racism was anti-human. It was very serious for people all over the world. As long as there was life, there was dignity. There was no distinction between high and low. This was especially true in America. It wasn't that Americans respected life more, but that there were too many racists in America. It could even be said that even if a black man became the president, there were still some situations that made people feel that way. For example, in America's #1 sport, football, in the past, the quarterback was definitely a pure Caucasian. The quarterback was the initiator of the offense and the organizer of the tactics. He was the most important player on the team. Especially in a team that mainly relied on passing tactics, the quarterback was even more important. It could be seen in sports that Caucasians had a leadership position. It wasn't difficult to see some of the problems in this country. Of course, as time passed, things were much better now. There were also Caucasian quarterbacks. It was still the same sentence. If a black man became the president, what else did Caucasians have to feel proud and noble? Chapter 1141. Have you ever thought about it? Many times, your opponents have already lost to you, yet you insist on taking their lives. What does this mean to them? Su Yun asked. Of course it means death, Eric said. But those who fight underground know that life and death are up to fate. Even if they die, there's nothing to complain about. They sign the contract themselves. And even if they die, there's still a portion of the compensation. Su Yun sneered. Compensation? Who's going to be satisfied with that little bit of USD? Since a person has to rely on underground fighting to make a living, it means that he's having a hard time. He might be the only one taking care of his entire family. Otherwise, why would he bet his life on underground fighting? You take their lives just because you say so. You don't give them any chance at all. Do you know that if you kill one person, it might mean that you're killing their entire family? Eric did not think much of it. As his left arm was severely injured, he could not help but grimace in pain. After enduring the intense pain, he spoke again. Even if someone asks me 100 times, I'll tell them that there's a difference between races. We white people will always be supreme. Then let me tell you, this isn't the closed era of the past. There's a black president now, and there are also white people begging on Wall Street. Soo-Yun said, if you're really so unrepentant, then I can only do something for the advancement of all of humanity. You won't dare to kill me, Eric said confidently. Why? Soo-Yun was stunned. Where did this crippled guy get the confidence to say such things to him? Eric endured the intense pain and said confidently, because you know very well that I'm Godfather's right-hand man. Godfather might forgive you for making him lose a large sum of money, but he'll definitely not forgive you for making him lose me. You think too highly of yourself. Is it just because you're white? Soo-Yun said in disdain. The earth can revolve without anyone. The Gambino family will still prosper without you. Soo-Yun was really unhappy with this guy's arrogance. Originally, he didn't want to go too far. If he went too far, he might really annoy his godfather, but now he couldn't care so much. I'm sure that Godfather is an extreme racist like you. I don't care even if I completely piss him off. Soo-Yun spat. New York's great white shark, if you die, New York's underground boxing will have one less scourge. When you go to hell, don't forget to say hello to the people you killed and say sorry. You don't dare to kill me. When Eric said this again, the confidence on his face was gone. He saw the sickle of the Grim Reaper in Soo-Yun's eyes. The corners of Soo-Yun's mouth curled up slightly. His smile was filled with an awe-inspiring evil aura. Whether I dare or not, you won't have the chance to know. The human throat was quite fragile. Once it was crushed, the person would die from not being able to inhale enough oxygen. That was what Soo-Yun did. Eric didn't die happily at all. It was rather painful. It was just like those people who were slowly tortured to death by him in the boxing ring. The pain was unimaginable to others. Even Bai Xiaoya couldn't stand such cruelty. She couldn't tell that Soo-Yun was really scary when he was being ruthless. Eric coughed violently, and blood spurted out from his nose and mouth. He glared at Soo-Yun ferociously. After he breathed his last, he died with his eyes wide open. Throughout the entire process, none of the 20-odd people Eric had brought with him stepped forward. Everyone had a solemn expression. That was because none of them were pure white. Perhaps there were people with fairer skin, but they were also mixed race. Among all the people present, be it their parents or grandparents, there were always people with other skin colors. Perhaps this was the power that made these subordinates watch as Eric died. After Eric breathed his last, the 20-odd people he brought with him took out their pistols in shock. To be honest, they didn't want to attack at all. They were afraid and worried. It was self-defense. Soo-Yun raised his hands. I don't mean to make things difficult for you. It's just that I personally hate people who discriminate against people. I believe that your family, friends, or even yourselves must have been discriminated against before, especially when you're following such a guy. You know what I mean? Indeed, everyone present had been discriminated against by Eric. Eric was a pain in their hearts, but they didn't dare to do anything to him. After all, he was someone they couldn't afford to offend. Now this Huaxia youth in front of them had killed Eric so easily. Naturally, they were no match for him. Moreover, there were some things that they couldn't figure out. The person that the Godfather wanted to invite to kill Eric was definitely a very difficult choice for them. What should they do? Let Soo-Yun tell them the answer. Brothers, do me a favor. Take this person back and tell Godfather that I'll still wait for him here. If Godfather is sincere, I believe he will know what to do. This was the most direct provocation to Godfather. Bai Xiaoya watched as the mafia men dragged Eric's body away. She looked at Soo-Yun in confusion. Didn't you say you didn't want to make things so tense? I had no choice. When enemies meet, their eyes turn red, Suyin said. There was once a Special Forces scout named Sun Debao, who went to the Dragon Brigade for a period of special training. It was Suyin who taught him. Sun Debao was a good and loyal person. That was why he had a good relationship with Suyin. Later, he left after finishing his training. He committed a grave mistake during a mission and was expelled from the army. What he had learned in his life couldn't be used anywhere else. In order to make a living, he brought his family to the United States to fight in New York. Suyin had always been in contact with him, but the bad news came suddenly. Sun Debao died in the boxing ring. The person who killed him was New York's great white shark, Eric. Suyin knew very well that he would die for nothing if he fought in the underground boxing ring. But later he heard that Eric was a racist. Sun Debao had already admitted defeat, but he still killed him. It had been a long time, and the anger in Suyin's heart had long disappeared. Therefore, when New York's great white shark stood in front of him and told him that he was Eric, Suyin wasn't angry. However, the murderous intent in his heart had started to grow rapidly. Soon, it reached a point where he couldn't control it. Things shouldn't have developed like this. Suyin should have gone back with Godfather's trusted men for tea and a chat. They would have made friends and compared their shrewdness before getting down to business. But now Suyin really couldn't predict how things would develop. Godfather might really come to invite him personally. There was a 50% chance that Godfather would really use a helicopter and shoot a missile to kill him, just like in the movies. There was also a 50% chance that Godfather would use a helicopter and shoot a missile to kill him. Let fate decide. That wasn't Suyin's style. Do you want to go to the Starbucks diagonally across the street for a cup of coffee? Suyin pointed outside and asked Bai Xiaoya. So luxurious? Bai Xiaoya was stunned. Aren't you going to wait for Randolph here? I'm going to wait, but I'm afraid that he'll really send a helicopter to kill us, Suyin said. After all, I broke his right-hand man. Bai Xiaoya snorted. Didn't you say that this isn't a movie? What's wrong? Are you in character now? Do you think you're Mr. and Mrs. Smith? Do you really think they'll use a missile to kill you? Chapter 1142. Bai Xiaoya did not care about Suyin's words. If they really dare to arrange for a few helicopters to shoot us down, I'll really give in to the Gambino family and the American Mafia. But if they don't come, I'll really look down on them. If the godfather of a big family is nothing more than this, then the entire American Mafia is nothing more than this. Why are you even more stubborn than I am? Randolph is not a fierce and domineering mafia boss. He's famous for being gentle and benevolent. He's never a ferocious man with a gun at his waist, a gold chain around his neck, or a tattoo on his chest. This kind of person is even harder to figure out than a ferocious man, Suyin said. Stop fooling around. I'm serious. Let's leave first and observe in the dark. Regardless of whether you're from the ancient times or the modern times, you're all about integrity. You said that you'd wait for him here. What if he arrives and you're not around? Bai Xiaoya frowned and said, the mafia is also part of the underworld. They definitely care about these things. What did she mean? Was she talking about integrity with a person who appeared gentle and benevolent on the surface, but was so cruel that he could even kill his own parents, wife, and children for his own benefits? Was there a mistake? The mafia believed that a great man must be ruthless. Integrity was the most worthless thing in their eyes. It could be seen from their loan shark company that they would always use their methods to achieve their goal of controlling and profiting. Once they felt that a person was no longer useful to them, they would directly abandon them without any pity. Do you think you're from the mafia in Causeway Bay? Suyin coughed softly and started singing. In terms of background, powerful. In terms of friends, I won't admit defeat. Blades and swords, let me break into the mafia to show off my abilities. My heart will shake the family, even if I die. I won't be shocked, let my blood flow. Alright. You sing so well. If Randolph really comes later, just sing a song. I guarantee that you'll take his life. Bai Xiaoya rolled her eyes. As far as Randolph was concerned, it was unforgivable for anyone to touch his money in his territory. Then, it was unforgivable for someone to touch his people in his territory. A core member of the Gambino family. He must be executed. Otherwise, how could he face people in America, New York, and Brooklyn in the future? Whoever dared to touch his people would be making him lose face. Almost everyone in the Big Apple knew that Eric, the great white shark of New York, was Randolph's right-hand man. Anyone who dared to hurt Eric would be disrespectful to Randolph. As the saying goes, if you want to beat a dog, you have to look at its owner. After all, Eric was Randolph's man. Even if he had to die, only Randolph could kill him. It was not up to others to teach the people around him a lesson. No matter how crazy the dog was, only the owner had the right to hit the dog. Pa! Randolph slammed his palm down, nearly shattering the glass table. Ever since Eric submitted to him, he had helped the Gambino family a lot. It could be said that he had contributed a lot. However, he didn't expect to die so suddenly. Even Randolph felt that Eric was making a fuss over such a trivial matter. However, he didn't expect that Eric would die like this. The other party was so arrogant that he wanted Randolph to welcome them personally? Humph. Someone who could easily kill Eric was obviously not an ordinary person. However, if they thought that they could step on Randolph's head like this, they were too naive. Tell Sydney to get ready. Tonight, I will let them know the consequences of going against me. Flames of anger flashed in Randolph's eyes. He was going to blow these two arrogant bastards up until they couldn't even find their ashes. Just as his subordinates were about to make the arrangements, Randolph suddenly realized another problem. Wait a minute. Randolph had always been calm when giving orders. He had never gone back on his words. However, this time, he hesitated. He suddenly felt that it was best for him to go there personally. Because these two arrogant, domineering, and powerful young men were Chinese from the East. Gu Guolong, who was under house arrest in one of his mansions, was also from Huaxia. Could it be that these two young men were experts hired by the Big Circle? Randolph's intuition was very sharp. After he realized the complexity of the problem, he took back his words. Sydney doesn't need to do it. I will go there personally. I want to see who they are. There was a saying that one would not wake up early if there were no benefits. Randolph chose to take the initiative because he was curious whether these two young men were related to Gu Guolong. If other than the American government, there were other people who were looking for Gu Guolong. It meant that it was right for him to keep Gu Guolong under house arrest. There must be a huge benefit involved. Since there were interests involved, and Randolph had intervened in the affairs of the Vancouver Circle at the request of the government, and Gu Guolong was captured by his men, he had to figure out the interests involved. Otherwise, he would not give up. When the U.S. government asked him to do something shady, it was also for the sake of their own image. The condition was to release one of his most capable men, Sydney, from prison and erase all of his criminal records. When Randolph brought Gu Guolong back to New York, the American government kept their promise and released him. They also cleared all of Sydney's criminal records. Randolph was shocked because Sydney's crime was too serious. He should have been sentenced to death. Randolph spent a lot of effort to bribe the people in the church, and the whole society was against the death penalty. That was how Sydney was spared temporarily. But now the U.S. government was willing to release Sydney for the sake of a Chinese leader. This made Randolph taste the sweetness of victory. Therefore, he chose to break the contract. After the American government released Sydney, he did not release Gu Guolong. Instead, he made more unreasonable demands. Randolph was testing the bottom line of the American government. He could only judge Gu Guolong's value when he knew the bottom line. But now, the sudden appearance of these two young men messed up Randolph's judgment. He decided to meet these two young men in person. Even though they had caused him to lose a lot of money and a capable right-hand man in his territory. But if he could get more valuable information from them, all the sacrifices would be worth it. There were no eternal friends and no eternal enemies. There were only eternal benefits. This was Randolph's principle. Just a second ago, he couldn't wait to tear out the tendons of these two troublemakers. But now he wanted to become friends with these two people so that he could maximize his own benefits. Benefits could make people change their minds in a very short period of time. Godfather, this is just a small matter. You don't have to come in person, do you? Randolph's subordinate looked at him in surprise. Randolph smiled and shook his head. Some things may seem small, but you may find that they are big things after you investigate them. Get ready and leave now. Don't let the two kids wait too long. We are the hosts. We must treat our friends well. Godfather, the hospitality you speak of, refers to. Chapter 1143. Randolph could not believe it. When he arrived at the scene, it was already empty. Bastard. Someone dared to trick him. As the godfather of the Gambino family, Randolph did not expect this at all. He remembered the person who dared to make an appointment with him and stood him up. He was afraid that his corpse was already rotten. Godfather, what should we do now? Randolph raised his head and closed his eyes. He took a deep breath and tried to calm himself down. It had been a long time since he was challenged like this. Now that he felt it again, it was really interesting. All right, since you guys want to play, then I'll play with you to your heart's content. Go and find the surveillance footage, Randolph said calmly. He did not believe that these two little things could escape from his hands. His subordinate immediately went to look for the surveillance footage. However, the footage was of Wesley killing Cui Zhijing. After Wesley killed Cui Zhijing, the footage became static. Randolph raised his head and looked at the surveillance footage in the office. The camera was destroyed by something. He did not expect these two young people to be so careful. They did not leave any trace of them since they entered. However, it did not matter. Although Eric was dead, there was still Wesley. Wesley had seen them. As long as his family saw them, they would not be able to leave New York alive. New York was not a place where you could leave as you wished. Randolph clenched his fist tighter and tighter. He had to let those who dared to trick him understand that it was not so easy to write the word death. Godfather. Suddenly, a subordinate who was waiting outside hurriedly ran in and said to Randolph, Those two people. Speak clearly. What are you panicking for? Randolph frowned and stared at him. Randolph's subordinate swallowed his saliva and said, Yes. It's those two people, they're both outside. What? Of course, Randolph knew who his subordinate was referring to. It's the two who killed Eric. Slap. Randolph slapped him and said, Of course I know. After saying that, he hurriedly strode out. Although he was beaten, his men still rushed to the front to open the door for their godfather. Randolph finally met the two young men who made him so emotional overnight. A man and a woman. No matter how one looked at them, they were the standard Huaxia people. The man was tall and handsome, and he was much more handsome than the short Japanese men. However, this kind of Huaxia man's handsomeness was different from the so-called sissy pretty boys in Korea. He had the strength and manliness that a man should have, and he was not effeminate. The girl was also a standard Huaxia beauty. Her frame was smaller than that of European and American girls. No matter how one looked at her, she looked delicate and charming. It was easy for men to have a strong desire to protect her. This was where Bai Xiaoya was dangerous. Although the roses were beautiful, they would prick one's hand if one was not careful. Su Yun and Bai Xiaoya stood in front of Randolph's Lincoln. Randolph's men aimed their guns at their heads, but they showed no fear on their faces. As long as Randolph didn't arrange for helicopters to bomb them with portable missiles, Su Yun would understand his intention. Since he had come in person, it was clear that he wanted things to develop peacefully and end peacefully. He didn't want to make things too tense. Godfather, I'm Su Dada. I've heard a lot about you, Godfather. Now that I've seen it today, it's indeed extraordinary. Su Yun's words carried a strong taste of the martial world. Randolph was expressionless. He was neither happy nor angry. He sized up Su Yun again calmly. He wanted to know how this ordinary-looking young man could kill his favorite subordinate, Eric. The old fox was indeed an old fox. He didn't show any weakness. Su Yun couldn't see any emotion or weakness from him. He didn't know where to start. Bai Xiaoya murmured, You're quite arrogant. Since Randolph wanted to wait and see, Su Yun decided to give him a taste of his own medicine. He became silent and stared at Randolph. Randolph frowned. This young man is really interesting. Humph. Not simple. Not simple at all. Sudada. Good name. Finally, Randolph blandly opened his mouth. I was just thinking, we don't have any grudges between us. Why do you want to mess with me? I think you should be very clear that in New York, or even in the entire United States, there aren't many people alive who dare to do what I did. And then, Su-Yun said, Godfather, are you saying that you're going to take my life today? Randolph smiled casually. What do you think, little brother? Ha ha ha. Su-Yun raised his head and laughed. If Godfather wanted to kill me, he wouldn't have come here personally. With Godfather's power, it shouldn't be difficult for him to mobilize a few planes or tanks. What do you think? If he wanted to kill me, he wouldn't be here listening to me. Randolph also laughed when he heard Su-Yun's flattery and provocation. Ha ha ha, Su-Dada, you think too highly of me. I'm a member of the mafia, not a terrorist. I'm not as scary as you say. Bai Xiaoya couldn't help but laugh when she heard Randolph call Su-Yun Dada. It was the local dialect of a certain district in Xinjiang. Ahem. Su-Yun coughed lightly, indicating that Bai Xiaoya should not spoil the atmosphere in such a serious occasion. Godfather, why did you bring so many people here? Didn't you do all this just to get me to treat you to a cup of tea? I've already paid such a heavy price. If I don't listen to Su-Dada's words, I'll have to suffer in silence. Randolph said. Let's go. Please come to my house. Su-Yun's goal was to get Randolph to treat him. Now that he had achieved his goal, he suddenly put on airs. Godfather, isn't it a bit too late today? Bai Xiaoya was about to get into the car. Is it still too late? What time is it? It's not even 10 o'clock yet. Ha ha ha, Su-Dada. Are you worried that you can't see the road at night? Or are you worried that I might? Randolph was confused. Both. Su-Yun said. After all, I feel a bit uneasy when you're so friendly. Randolph's expression changed. All right, I'll change my method. He clapped his hands, and all his men took out their weapons and pointed them at Su-Yun and Bai Xiaoya. Randolph didn't even turn his head as he got into the car. Take him away, he said indifferently. Bai Xiaoya rolled her eyes. Why are you refusing a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit? The wine he offered me is not that good. Su-Yun said. I need to be alone. When I'm facing him, I feel that he can see through my thoughts. I don't know how to deal with him. While they were talking, the two of them were already taken to another car. This way, I won't have to face him on the way. I'll have time to think about what to do and organize my words. Su-Yun said. Didn't you organize your words in the coffee shop just now? Bai Xiaoya asked. Su-Yun shook his head. I didn't expect that he would come to pick us up. I was already prepared to face the assassins he arranged. Chapter 1144. When they boarded the car, Randolph's men were still polite to them. They did not cover their eyes and put a paper bag over their heads. In fact, it would be better if they were taken to a place and blindfolded. This means that the other party does not intend to kill them. They are just afraid that they will call the police after they let them go. If they did not bring anything for them, it means that they will kill them if they don't agree with them. I'm looking at the stars at night. It's more ominous than auspicious. Su-Yun looked at the sky outside the skylight. Although the American Empire was an evil hegemonic country, he had to admit that their sky was very clear. At least they could see the stars and moon in the sky. Unlike most cities in China where they couldn't even see the blue sky and white clouds during the day. How could they see the stars at night? The smog will kill you, and you will not be able to see the stars and the moon. No wonder the fortune tellers are not doing well in recent years. It's because of the smog, and it's impossible to look at the stars at night. That's why there is a saying, scammers are everywhere, and masters are worse than dogs. Mr. Lu Sun once said that the Huaxia people had a bad habit. They were opportunistic. For example, when the country was in trouble and wanted to resist the Japanese, many people would use the excuse of saving the nation. Even dog skin plasters were panaceas to save the nation. When the country is celebrating, everyone will be opportunistic. For example, when Beijing is hosting the Olympics, they will sell their houses, cars, and tinea medicine. All of them will try their best to be related to the Olympics and the country. Similarly, sinology has been suppressed for nearly 100 years due to the anti-feudal and anti-traditional historical background. In recent years, the old goods have become popular again, and opportunistic activities have also started to appear. The masters did not look at the stars clearly. They used the name of the National Academy as a tiger's skin and stole the beams to replace the pillars. They hung sheep's head to sell dog meat. For example, many classes and books have nothing to do with sinology. Those who set up street stalls and use poker cards to tell fortunes are also known as sinology masters. If those masters are really masters, they will definitely be able to tell the future. It's not easy to scam money in recent years, and the media will expose their bullsh*t. Clearly, it's not that they don't have the ability to tell the future, but it's because of the smog. They can't even see the stars, so how can they tell the future? You know how to read the stars? Bai Xiaoya was taken aback. Oh my, this brother of mine is an all-rounder. I know a little, Su Yan said. I'm better at reading palms. One of the mafia members in the car was instantly interested. Although he didn't understand most of what Su Yan said, he could still understand the words palmistry and astrology. There were also masters on the streets of New York who flaunted their power to tell fortunes. You know how to read palms? Seeing that the other party was interested, Su Yan smiled mysteriously. Well, Grandmaster, if you really know how to read it, can you help me take a look as well? It could be seen that the other party's expression was somewhat anxious. He probably had bad luck recently. Therefore, he definitely didn't want to miss this opportunity to meet such a master who could read palms. The secrets of heaven cannot be revealed. Su Yan shook his head. The more the other party saw Su Yan acting this way, the more he believed him. He stretched out his black face and said, Grandmaster, what are your conditions? Feel free to state them. Since you're so sincere, I'll help you. Su Yan stared at the mafia member in front of him and said, From your face, your glabella is dark. Pfft. Bai Xiaoya couldn't help but laugh. Dark glabella? To think that you can say something like that. This guy is a black man. Other than his teeth, the whites of his eyes, and the soles of his palms and feet, which part of him doesn't turn dark? You might as well say that his glabella is white. That would be more convincing. What are you laughing at? Be serious. Su Yan also realized his slip of the tongue. When I said dark, I didn't mean a superficial dark skin tone. When I said dark glabella, I meant that there are invisible dark clouds in your glabella. The other party looked at Su Yan suspiciously. Dark clouds? Why can't I see them? If you can see them, you'll be a grandmaster. Then you won't be a small thug by Godfather's side. You can directly become Godfather's military advisor, Su Yan said evilly. Have you been walking a lot lately? What do you mean? The other party froze. It means that you're unlucky. For example. Su Yan paused. He noticed that there were a few thin scars on the other party's neck. These scars were obviously caused by a woman's nails. For example, you did something you shouldn't have done, and your wife found out. Then you were scratched at home. The other party's eyes lit up. Grandmaster. How do you know? I was scratched by my wife the day before yesterday. Hearing Old Hay's words, the person sitting next to him, who had been unwilling to believe it from the beginning, was stunned. Was this for real? That awesome? This is the sign of a dark glabella. You're going to have a bloody disaster, Su Yan said as he carefully observed all kinds of details. Soon, Su Yan noticed the difference between the black man's pants. One of the pants looked loose, while the other was tight. If he wasn't wrong, the tight leg must have been injured. Visually, it was tied with gauze, and it was wrapped in many circles. It was either a serious knife wound or a gunshot wound. If the knife wound was serious enough to require so many bandages, who knew how many stitches would be needed? If that was the case, walking would be affected. However, this person didn't seem to have any problems walking. It was most likely a gunshot wound. A gunshot wound wouldn't tear the flesh. As long as the bullet was taken out, it would definitely hurt. However, for a country full of guns, a mafia member being shot was probably a common occurrence, right? This kind of pain was nothing to them. You've been shot recently. Su Yan quickly confirmed his judgment. Your left leg was injured. Ah. This time, not only was Blackie surprised, but the guy next to him was also convinced. For days ago, Blackie had been shot in the left leg. He was there, so he knew very well. This guy was really a god. A master was a master. He could tell just by looking at the face. Master, can you take a look at me too? When can I take my career to the next level? The guy next to Blackie asked. Of course. Su Yin smiled. Actually, tonight is an important moment. Eric is dead, and one of you will definitely be promoted. And this person will definitely want to make an example out of me. The two were slightly stunned. That was right. If they wanted to be promoted, they would also kill Su Yin. But that's wrong, Su Yin said calmly. Since I can deal with Eric, I'm not afraid of the rest of you. Also, if smart people think about it carefully, they should understand that since Godfather invited me back to talk, it means that he knows what to talk to me about in order to get the most benefits, and not to kill me. The two stared at Su Yin with wide eyes. What do you mean? I'm a master. I've read a lot. I won't lie to you. Su Yin said. Someone will definitely want to kill me tonight. If you step forward and help me out, I believe Godfather will give you a big credit. Seeing the confusion on their faces, Su Yin continued. Of course, you can also ignore it. Since I can predict that someone will want to kill me tonight, I'm not afraid of a sneak attack. I'm telling you this because I think we're fated, and I'm giving you a chance to be promoted. Do you understand? The two finally understood and nodded vigorously. They were so lucky to be able to receive guidance from a master. Bai Xiaoya lowered her voice and whispered into Su Yin's ear. Is it fun to fool them? Su Yin also whispered into Bai Xiaoya's ear when the two people watching them were not paying attention. Of course it's fun. I'm just fooling them. Since Randolph asked these two to escort us back, it means that he trusts them. If he wants to kill us, he will definitely give them a signal. Fooling them is equivalent to giving us a bulletproof vest. Chapter 1145. Finally, the car arrived at Randolph's supermansion in Queens, New York. Although the land in the U.S. was scarce, the value of the land was closely related to the land. Randolph's mansion in Queens, New York, was located at a location. The value of 1 square meter of Randolph's mansion was estimated to be able to buy a small villa in Indiana or South Carolina. When it came to real estate, many people would start cursing. Just by searching on the internet, a 3-bedroom villa in South Carolina was only worth $80,000, which was less than 500,000 renminbi. That villa had buildings, courtyards, and lawns. Huaxia. Take Xiufu, known as the cultural center of Huaxia, the hometown of Confucius and Mencius. As an example, it was a 4th-tier county. Green City's ordinary buildings in the suburbs were priced at 6,000 renminbi. If one wanted to buy a villa with a courtyard, it would cost 13,000 renminbi per square meter. The smallest house was at least 200 square meters. It would cost at least 3 million renminbi. What kind of difference was this? Xiufu was considered a 4th-tier county in China. Although South Carolina was not as famous as California or Texas in the United States, it was still considered a coastal city. But then again, socialism also had its benefits. Huaxia's houses had a lifespan of 70 years. But most of the houses in Huaxia would be demolished before the lifespan was 70 years. The newly allocated houses would have 70 years of lifespan. This was definitely a blessing to the people of Huaxia. The US was not like this. If you were to die of old age or become disabled and could not afford to pay taxes, the US would take back your house. You would not have a place to live. You would have to pay taxes to mend your lawn. Not to mention the payroll tax, inheritance tax, gasoline tax, customs tax, telephone tax, alcohol tax, aviation tax, tobacco tax. All these taxes were much more terrifying than Huaxia's taxes. How can a capitalist country be compared to socialism? There were too many aspects that liked to look at the problem from a one-sided perspective. Of course, the Huaxia government should control this situation. Low taxes were an advantage. At least the commoners would not feel so much pressure. But high property prices were also a big problem. In most cities, property prices were more than 10,000 renminbi. A 2-bedroom house would cost more than 1 million RMB. A civil servant's monthly salary was only 2,000 to 3,000 renminbi. If he could not afford to buy a house in 30 years, how can the commoners afford it? Even if he sold his kidney, he wouldn't be able to afford it. Civil servants might have some gray income, but commoners had to spend whatever they earned. After the car stopped, Master Su and Bai Xiaoye got out of the car under the respectful invitation of the two mafias. Randolph didn't say anything as he walked into the room under the protection of a group of people. Grandmaster Su, please. Blackie had almost become Su Yun's full-time bodyguard. After getting out of the car, he looked at the others in a different way. People were like this. Once they were fooled, their minds would stop working. They would only believe that as long as he protected Master Su Yun, his godfather would let him get promoted and become rich. They would not think rationally about what his godfather was thinking. It was not what Su Yun said, but what his godfather thought. Su Yun had used the usual tricks of many swindlers in the country to figure out the other party's needs, and through observation, he had directly taken the other party down. Therefore, the other party was originally a black man. When Su Yun said that his glabella was black, he also believed it. His brain had stopped working, and he did not know that he was originally black. In the luxuriously decorated villa, there were famous paintings on the wall, and there were some famous sculptures on the table. It was indeed a big scene for Su Yun, but it was nothing in Bai Xiaoye's eyes. Zhuo Lingyue was a collector, and her collection was much more than Randolph's. The things in Randolph's living room were just a drop in the ocean for Zhuo Lingyue. After taking a seat, only the servant served Randolph a cup of coffee, completely ignoring the two guests, Su Yun and Bai Xiaoye. Ha ha ha, godfather, if you want to show your power to me, I don't mind. After all, I made you lose a lot of money and a person. Su Yun went straight to the point and said, so, I can understand if you want me to suffer a little. However, I'm afraid it's a little unreasonable to treat your guests so coldly. I know Huaxia people like you are very happy when friends come from afar, Randolph said. I'm also very particular about it. I admire the Confucian teacher, Confucius. The reason why I can be where I am today is because of Confucius's famous saying, among three people, there is always one who can learn from me. If it weren't for Confucius's words, I wouldn't be where I am today. Su Yun raised his eyebrows. Actually, a hoodlum was not scary, but a cultured hoodlum was scary. Randolph was definitely a cultured person, and he could even say one or two sentences of the Analects of Confucius. Although it was not rare in Huaxia, and all the kindergarten students could say one or two sentences of the Analects of Confucius, those who couldn't would be bad students in the future. Not many people knew about Confucius in the mafia circle in America. Su Yun was surprised that Randolph could speak so clearly and logically. I didn't expect Godfather to know so much about Huaxia's Confucian culture. Su Yun smiled. It was necessary to be careful when dealing with a cultured hoodlum. I have been to Tsiufu, Mount Anai, and Confucius's cave, Randolph said calmly. Su Yun smiled. A gentleman's virtue, a petty man's soil. A gentleman's punishment, a petty man's favor. A gentleman is slow in speech, but quick in action. A gentleman talks about righteousness, a petty man talks about profit. Randolph was stunned. It was already impressive for him to know a few sentences of the Analects of Confucius, but Su Yun's parallel sentences of gentleman and petty man made his head hurt. But from the literal meaning, it wasn't difficult for Randolph to understand that Su Yun was calling him a villain in disguise, because he did everything for the sake of profit, not righteousness. Godfather, do you think of yourself as a gentleman or a petty man? Su Yun smiled. I can't be compared to Confucius, Randolph said. Randolph said, since Su Dada has made things so clear, then why don't we be frank? I will negotiate with Su Dada peacefully for the sake of benefits. I am the head of the Gambino family, and there are hundreds of mouths in the family waiting for me to make a decision before they can eat. The title of gentleman is worthless to me. What I care about is maximizing the benefits. Maximizing the benefits? Su Yun nodded. I understand what Godfather is trying to say. Then I won't beat around the bush. How is old Master Gu? Of course he is. Randolph smiled. He is very good. Can I meet him? Su Yun asked. Of course not. Randolph put away his smile and said, "Give me a reason. If your reason is good enough, I might give you a chance. However, if your reason is not good enough, don't blame me for being ruthless." Su-Yun laughed and did not continue with Randolph's words. "Godfather, if I can't see old Master Gu, how can I trust you? I'm afraid the two of us can't be considered friends now. You are not righteous to begin with, so I can't trust you. If I'm not wrong, what you want to do the most now is not to kill me, but to use me to maximize your benefits. Therefore, I have the right to state my conditions." Just as Su-Yun finished speaking, someone suddenly took out a gun and stood out, directly shouting at Su-Yun. "Who do you think you are? How dare you speak to Godfather like this? Do you believe that I will kill you right now?" Without needing Su-Yun to say anything, Blackie took out his gun and aimed at his own people. "Put down your gun. Su Dada is here to discuss benefits with Godfather. You better show some respect." Chapter 1146. Randolph frowned. This young man was really cunning. He didn't expect that Hunter would speak up for him in such a short time when he arranged for Hunter to escort the carriage. What should Randolph do when faced with such a tough young man? Randolph didn't listen to reason or force, and he didn't show his interest in cooperating with him first. Randolph couldn't kill him either. Killing these two people was just to vent his anger. Randolph had already lost what he should have lost. At this moment, if one of them showed his interest and desire for benefits, it would mean that the other party had the upper hand. Randolph would be at a disadvantage in many ways. Randolph was very experienced in this aspect. He always liked to use this method to get more benefits from his partners. Randolph would always wait until the last moment to speak when it came to the desire for benefits. However, it was different this time. This time, Randolph didn't see any desire for benefits on Su-Yun's face. Instead, Su-Yun thought that the benefits were immeasurable. Therefore, Randolph was more interested in it. Su-Yun didn't show any desire for benefits because he didn't need to pretend at all. He wanted to find and save Guguolong because of Guchia. It had nothing to do with anything else. Not only there were no benefits, but there was also the American Empire behind him. If the American agents found Guguolong earlier, it would be more difficult for him to save Guguolong. No matter how powerful Randolph was, he was just a godfather of the mafia. Su-Yun couldn't afford to offend him. At most, they would send people to chase him all the way to Huaxia. However, the American government was not so easy to offend. If a group of American agents were to go on a rampage, it would not be fun. Moreover, the American military was very powerful. They might even arrange for 2 reborn biowarriors to fight him to the death. If you can get Guguolong from me, what can I get in return? Randolph was a person who valued benefits above all else. Nothing was more important than benefits to him. Su-Yun didn't know how to answer this question. He couldn't give Randolph anything. "Godfather, what do you want?" "The U.S. government can give me 1 billion renminbi and the freedom to sell marijuana in Brooklyn," Randolph said. "Can you give me this?" Su-Yun smiled. "Godfather, if the U.S. government really agrees to give you the right to sell marijuana in Brooklyn, what are you waiting for? This is equivalent to the NBA getting unlimited shooting rights. It's every player's dream." Randolph didn't answer. With Su-Yun's shrewdness, he wouldn't be fooled. No country or government would allow a drug dealer to sell marijuana and heroin in their territory. "Godfather, forgive me for being blunt, but I'm afraid the U.S. government can only promise you 1 billion USD, Su-Yun said casually. 1 billion USD. What a terrifying number. Just from this point alone, it could be seen how important Matthew was to the U.S. government. They would not miss any opportunity. But the right not to interfere with the sale of marijuana was impossible. "Oh," Randolph smiled. "Since Dada Su thinks so, does that mean you can give me this benefit?" Although Su-Yun was still terrified by the amount of 1 billion USD, he still used the word, only. Obviously, he did it on purpose. If he didn't say it on purpose, why would Randolph's eyes light up? "Godfather, you must be joking. You have such a big business, and the Gambino family is such a big business. Why would they care about this small amount?" Su-Yun smiled. Let's talk about old Gu first. At least, I can be sure that old Gu is really in your hands. So, Dada Su doesn't trust me? Randolph was getting more and more interested in Su Yun. Even 1 billion USD was just a small amount to him. How much was this small amount? Of course not, Su Yun said. I still trust you, Godfather. I'm just worried about whether old Gu's place is safe. If old Gu's place is targeted by the government, wouldn't that be? Randolph understood Su Yun's concern. Dada Su, I believe that we are fated to meet. Even if you don't tell me what you can give me now, I can still bring you to see old Master Gu. However, let's make things clear. If you can give me something that I don't like, don't blame me for falling out with you. So what if I fall out with you? Su Yun was smiling on the surface, but he had already made up his mind. If I fall out with you, so be it. I don't believe that a grandmaster can do anything to me. Ha ha ha, didn't I already say that it's just a small amount? How could Godfather be interested in it? Su Yun smiled as he tried to smooth things over. He didn't care about the consequences. He wanted to see old Master Gu first. As long as Gu Guolong was fine, he, Su Yun, was not afraid of anything. Randolph also smiled brightly. That's not necessarily the case. Dada Su might just be able to offer me something that suits my taste. I love watermelons, haha. Oh Godfather, you're really giving me face. Su Yun hurriedly said. I don't know if Godfather likes to eat Black Beauty or Special Small Phoenix. I like both. Randolph didn't want to continue this joke. Dada Su, if you really want to see old Master Gu, I can arrange it now. Thank you, Godfather. Then, I'll also send someone to arrange what you want. If possible, it'd be best if we can reach a deal today. I'm a straightforward person. As long as I'm sure that old Master Gu is fine, I'm willing to pay twice as much, let alone 3 melons or 2 dates, Su Yun said seriously. Randolph liked this kind of straightforwardness. As long as he could pay twice as much as the US government, he wouldn't hesitate. This deal would be a deal. Su Yun pulled Bai Xiaoya to her side and whispered a few words into her ear. Bai Xiaoya's expression could be described as colorful and varied. She was shocked and in disbelief. She looked at Su Yun as if she was looking at a monster. After hearing Su Yun's words, Bai Xiaoya seemed to be anxious. Are you sure you want to do this? Aren't you going to? I've made up my mind. Su Yun stopped whispering and stood up. Since I've promised Godfather, I have to show him my sincerity. Otherwise, how can we talk about this deal? Since Godfather trusts me so much, if I'm still stingy, I'll be disrespecting Godfather. Randolph was slightly surprised. He didn't hear what the two of them were talking about, but he was sure from the girl's expression that Su Yun's bargaining chip was absolutely shocking, and no one would be able to guess it. Otherwise, the girl wouldn't be so surprised. All right. You can go and prepare now. Su Yun said to Bai Xiaoya. I'll wait until I see old Master Gu. I want to see Godfather's sincerity first. Of course. Randolph nodded. Sincerity is an agreement between both parties. I believe in Dada Su's sincerity. Godfather, I'm a man of my words. Su Yun said. I'm more trustworthy than the US government. All right. Let's go now. Randolph made up his mind. He wanted to take a gamble. He wanted to believe in this young man in front of him. This young man could say $1 billion was nothing, tear a wool worth over $100 million into pieces, and kill his subordinate, the great white shark of New York. All these actions showed that this young man was extraordinary. Chapter 1147. This time, Su Yun did not leave Queens in someone else's car. Instead, he was personally invited by Randolph to sit in his car. A person who treated $1 billion as nothing was definitely worthy of the Gambino family's godfather's respect. Even if Gambino was still alive, he would definitely look at Su Yun in a different light, let alone Randolph. The distance between one rich person's villa and another rich person's villa was not far. However, because Randolph was openly sheltering Gu Guolong, the American government would never have thought that Randolph would arrange for Gu Guolong to stay in one of his private villas and treat Gu Guolong like a queen. The American government had been investigating Randolph's shady strongholds. Even though Brooklyn could not be compared to the Upper East Side and Long Island, it did not mean that the rich villas in this area were easy to mess with. Therefore, even though the American government often saw Randolph going in and out of the villas in this area, they still thought that he was running around for his marijuana business in Brooklyn. Soo-yin finally met Gu Guolong. Gu Guolong's face was obviously a lot more haggard. However, Soo-yin could tell that Randolph did not make him suffer any physical pain. When Gu Guolong saw Soo-yin, the first thing that came to his mind was to ask about his daughter. He had nothing to worry about now. It did not matter even if he lost his life. However, news about his daughter was very important to him. Since Soo-yin could come to New York and meet him personally under Randolph's lead, he believed that Soo-yin had the ability to find out about Gu Chia. Soo-yin only needed a glance to convey what he wanted to say. He comforted Gu Guolong to calm down, and told him that he would tell him everything later when he had the chance. Right now, he needed Gu Guolong to calm down and not do anything rash. He needed Gu Guolong to pretend to be someone he was not familiar with. After all, Gu Guolong had known people for many years. He could still understand the meaning in Soo-yin's eyes. Since Soo-yin appeared here, it meant that he wanted to take him away. As long as he cooperated with Soo-yin, it would be fine. Randolph smiled. Old Master Gu, I brought a friend to meet you. I'm sure you'll be happy. I'm quite happy, Gu Guolong said. But I'll be even happier when I leave. Soo-yin quickly sent a message to Bai Xiaoya before putting his phone back into his pocket with a smile. Old Gu, since I'm here, you should know what I'm here for. I've reached an agreement with the Godfather. I'm here to take you away. I'm already a cripple. I really don't understand why there are so many people interested in me. Gu Guolong shook his head helplessly. Everyone has different values, and in the eyes of different people, their values are also different. Soo-yin. Godfather, don't you think so? If you keep old Master Gu by your side, it will be meaningless. But if you leave old Master Gu to me, it'll be different. Randolph smiled. The American government wants old Master Gu, because they want to find a guy named Kevin Matthew through him. What about you? Dada Sue, you asked me for old Master Gu. What do you want to do with him? I'm afraid I can't tell you that. Godfather, since old Master Gu is fine, let's... Randolph could not understand the meaning behind Soo-yin's smile. Well, Mr. Soo, you haven't told me what you can give me, Randolph said. Soo-yin shrugged. I remember I've told you many times. Randolph's expression changed. Dada Sue, what do you mean? I'm an honest person, Godfather. I always keep my promises. Soo-yin. I told you that you wouldn't like the melons and dates I gave you. You said you would like them, so you brought me to see old Master Gu. I also said that if old Master Gu is fine and you take good care of him, I'll double the amount. The melons and dates will be 6 melons and 4 dates. Randolph's fists trembled, and the muscles on his face started to tremble. He hoped that the young man in front of him was just joking with him. No one had dared to trick him like this in his entire life. I even asked you if you liked Tilofeng or Black Beauty. You said anything, so I prepared 3 Black Beauties, 3 Tilofeng, and 6 watermelons for you. That's enough for the occasion. Soo-yin said. As for the dates, I got someone to weigh a kilogram for you. Isn't that generous enough? Randolph slammed his fist on the table. Dada Sue, although I respect you for being young and capable, you should stop joking with me. I'm not joking with you. Bai Xiaoya left earlier to buy watermelons and dates from the supermarket. Soo-yin sent her messages on the way to tell her where they were going. Just now, Soo-yin told Bai Xiaoya that she could come in. Bai Xiaoya immediately took care of the bodyguards outside the villa, and walked in with 6 small watermelons and 1 kilogram of dates. Here are the things you wanted, Bai Xiaoya said to Randolph with the watermelons and dates. Randolph couldn't stand it. How dare they play a joke in my territory with a few watermelons? They must be crazy. This is New York, my territory. Fine, fine, fine. I trusted you, but you played me like this. Do you really think you can escape from my territory? Randolph scolded angrily. Do you really think I only have a dozen bodyguards in the courtyard? Humph, in New York, if you're a dragon, you'll have to lie down. If you're a tiger, You'll have to lie down. After a few claps, Randolph's villa was soon surrounded by people from outside. Soo-Yun could tell from the aura alone that there were simply too many people. Of course, Randolph wasn't a fool. Before he brought Soo-Yun here, he had already ordered his best subordinate, Sydney, to set up an ambush here. As long as he gave the signal, a few hundred people would instantly surround this villa. Soo-Yun, what should we do? Gu Guolong wanted to escape. Only by leaving this place could he have a chance to see his daughter. Soo-Yun also knew that this was going to be a fierce battle. It was definitely not going to be easy to deal with. Being surrounded by so many people, it was definitely not going to be easy to leave. After turning hostile, Randolph was immediately surrounded by a few bodyguards. Among the bodyguards protecting him, one of them was Old Black with a black glabella. Obviously, this time, he was really going to be in a bloody disaster. However, he wasn't the only one who was going to die. He was going to die because of everyone here. Just when Randolph was about to order Sydney and his men to rush in and trample Soo-Yun's group into meat paste, gunshots were heard from the outside. A fierce battle broke out in an instant. Is there an internal conflict? Soo-Yun was stunned for a moment. Wasn't this a little too sudden? At the very least, he should have used his silver tongue to coax them a little before starting an internal conflict. Randolph's expression changed when he heard the gunshots. They're from the government. Take Gu Guolong away. Godfather, I'm afraid that no one will have a chance to take Master Gu away with me here. Soo-Yun sneered. He didn't give Randolph a chance to speak. He rushed forward and killed the two bodyguards who were about to detain Gu Guolong. Bai Xiaoya didn't stay idle either. She threw a bag of watermelons at them and knocked them out. She followed Soo-Yun and took down the bodyguards beside Randolph. Bai Xiaoya wanted to attack Randolph, but Soo-Yun stopped her and said to Randolph, Godfather, I really have to thank you for this. If you didn't stop old Gu, I wouldn't know how to save him from the government. Thank you. You can eat the watermelons. If you have the chance to go to Huaxia in the future, remember to look for me. I'll treat you to Quanzhi's roast duck. Chapter 1148. The battle outside was getting more and more intense. The government's agents were no joke. No matter how powerful the Gambino family was, they were just a mafia organization. As the most powerful government organization in the world, would they be afraid of a mere mafia organization? Of course not. The American government would turn a blind eye to this because although the Gambino family had done many evil deeds, they had also brought a lot of benefits to the country. Their existence had also pushed forward the country's economy in a certain way. This logic was very simple. There would be such situations in any country. Some people would do things that were against the rules, but under certain circumstances, they could bring about some good things. The country would then turn a blind eye to it. It was just like how some projects were against the rules, but they solved the employment problem and did not evade the country's taxes. As for other things, they were just small matters. However, once a certain action really angered the country and there was a serious conflict of interests, the government would not care about what capabilities the person had. No matter how hard they tried, they would not be able to win. Randolph had been hiding Gu Guolong for too long. The American government had finally found an opportunity to gather evidence and investigate. As long as they took action, they would definitely do so with the goal of taking down this matter. Soo-Yun would not be so foolish as to stay here and fight. It was still easy to deal with the Gambino family, but with the government's agents, it would be a little troublesome. The Gambino family had already started fighting with the American government outside, giving Soo-Yun a chance to catch his breath. This was what they meant by, when the snipe and the clam fight, the fisherman benefits. Do you think you'll be able to leave just like this? Randolph said coldly. Don't be so optimistic, young man. You won't have a chance. Regardless of whether my men win or the government's agents win, you won't have a chance to leave this place. This villa has been completely surrounded. Godfather, this villa of yours is near the south coast. I don't believe that there aren't any emergency escape routes here. As the saying goes, a cunning rabbit has 3 burrows. You're a cunning old fox. You should have at least 3 escape routes, right? Soo-Yun said. Escape by air? I don't have a plane. Since the ground is surrounded by your men and the government's agents, then there shouldn't be any problems with the water route, right? Randolph's countenance changed, but he did not say anything. Gu Guolong said, I haven't been staying here for nothing. I can be sure that there's a secret door. It's in the basement. Godfather, if there is only one boat, then I'm sorry. Su Yin smiled. Randolph couldn't sit still anymore. No matter what, he couldn't stay here. If he was caught, it would be a serious crime. There was such a big fight outside. If he was caught, he would not be able to escape punishment. He would not even be able to find someone to take the blame. Godfather, we can't take you with us. This place needs you. You have so many subordinates waiting for you to collect their corpses. Su Yin smiled. If fate wills it, we'll meet again. Randolph pointed at Su Yin and said viciously, let me tell you, we will meet again. I will make you pay for what you did today. I will hunt you down no matter where you are. Okay, I'll wait for you. Su Yin didn't fall for his threats. Under Gu Guolong's lead, they quickly found the secret door. It was in the basement, and there was a small hidden dock and a small speedboat. It was obvious that Randolph had prepared it for himself. If he needed it, he could use it to escape. For example, today, after he was completely surrounded by the government agents, he needed to escape using this secret door. However, now that the only boat had been driven away, there was nothing he could do. The only way to turn the situation around was to stop the fight outside and shift the focus of the government agents to the escaping Gu Guolong. Randolph wanted to stop the fight immediately, but everything had developed to a point beyond his control. The bullets rained down, and the government agents seemed to have been injected with stimulants. They wouldn't stop until they killed all of them. The gunfight lasted for more than 20 minutes, and the Gambino family suffered countless casualties. Almost all of them were wiped out. Sidney, who led everyone in the fight, was also shot twice. He dragged his injured leg into the villa. As they were only focused on the fight outside, they didn't expect such a big change to happen in the villa. The bodyguards beside the Godfather were all sitting on the ground, and the Godfather was the only one left. Gu Guolong and Su Yin were also gone. Godfather? What happened? Sidney had been with Randolph since he was young, and he was definitely the person Randolph trusted the most. Otherwise, Randolph wouldn't have agreed to help the government agents go to Canada to capture people in order to get him out of prison. He risked defending the Dark Angel by doing so. Seeing his godfather's dejected expression, Sidney would definitely blame himself. He would blame himself for not coming to the room earlier. If he had come to the room earlier, perhaps things wouldn't have turned out like this. Where are they? Sidney realized the severity of the situation. They've already left. Randolph tried his best to calm his breathing. You should leave quickly too. You're good at swimming, so there's no point in staying here and dealing with this matter with me. I can't leave anymore. I believe that if the government wants to know who took Gu Guolong away from me, they won't make things difficult for me. Sidney shook his head. Godfather, leave. I'll take responsibility for this. Don't you understand what I mean? I'll be fine if I stay here, but you're different. It wasn't easy for me to get you out. If you get caught again, it'll be troublesome. Randolph was quite loyal. I have a bargaining chip, but you don't. Leave now. Then I'll bring you with me. I'm good at swimming, so I'll bring you out. We'll pay someone to take responsibility for us, Sidney said seriously. Randolph shook his head. If your leg isn't injured, I can consider it. After all, this waterway isn't close. If you bring me along, I'm afraid you won't be able to last that long. Stop talking nonsense. The more blood you lose, the harder it will be for you to escape. Leave now. But, how dare you disobey my order? Randolph glared at him and said ferociously, I'm invited to have tea for a few days. You still need to take care of the family's affairs. Don't let anyone take advantage of this opportunity to cause internal strife. You know who I'm talking about. If he dares to cause trouble, you know what to do. Godfather, don't worry. No matter who it is, if he dares to cause trouble when you're not here, I'll teach him a lesson, Sidney said coldly. Randolph nodded. Then I'm relieved. You go now. Sydney felt the heavy responsibility on his shoulders. He had to leave quickly. Although his leg was shot twice, he should be able to swim out. The government agents finished the fight and rushed into the mansion. However, they found that the mansion was empty. The person they wanted was not there. Only Randolph was sitting on the sofa, drinking coffee and looking at them with a smile. "Even if you're from the government, I'll sue you for trespassing." Randolph scolded. "We have a search warrant. Your men shot first." The leader of the agents stood up. "Godfather Randolph, this is a big thing. I'm afraid that you have to explain it to me personally. Where did you transfer the person we want to meet to?" Randolph was still smiling. "Kid, if you want me to explain it to you, then be nice to me. Don't disgust me. You." Chapter 1149. Randolph knew that if he cooperated with the government agents now, he might be able to catch Su Yin and Gu Guolong before they escaped from New York. However, he wouldn't cooperate with the government agents. The reason was simple. People in this line of work preferred to deal with grudges by themselves. Moreover, if Randolph helped the government to catch Gu Guolong, he wouldn't be able to catch him. Forget about the freedom to sell marijuana in Brooklyn. The $1 billion would probably go down the drain. Humans were selfish creatures, especially those who prioritized profit. They would prioritize profit over everything else. Randolph would rather deal with the government himself than leave the chance to catch Gu Guolong to the government. As long as he could survive this period, he wouldn't let go of the two young men who dared to trick him and Gu Guolong even if he had to travel all over the world. Randolph was invited to have tea with the government agents, while Su Yun and Bai Xiaoya took the opportunity to leave New York with Gu Guolong. After they docked the boat, they immediately took a taxi to the parking lot where they parked their cars. Taking advantage of the dark and windy night, they drove back. From now on, Su Yun did not dare to delay even a minute. Every minute he delayed meant that he would be pursued by the American agents a minute earlier. He did not want to act out a real-life version of the Fast and the Furious. He was not driving a GTR. Nor was he driving an SRT-8. His little broken car could not withstand the torment in the movie. How is Chia? Gu Guolong was still in danger, but he couldn't help but worry about his daughter's safety. Bai Xiaoya didn't want Su Yin to be distracted by driving, so she turned around and explained to Gu Guolong, "Don't worry, your daughter is fine. She's waiting for your good news in Vancouver." Obviously, Gu Guolong didn't believe this girl's words. "Mr. Gu, a lot has happened recently." Su Yin said, "Luckily Chia is fine. Miss Celine from Dark Angel is taking care of her for me. I believe she's safe." Hearing that his daughter was in the hands of the Dark Angel, Gu Guolong could no longer sit still. Why is she with Celine? Everyone in Canada knows what kind of woman Celine is. If Celine gets together with her, she'll definitely. "Old Master Gu, you're thinking too much," Su Yin said. "You know what the circle is like now. If I want to find Gu Chia in Canada, I can only go through the Dark Angel." "How can you look for them? The Dark Angels and the Great Circle are enemies." Gu Guolong was so shocked that he was speechless. "Grandpa, can you stop worrying?" Bai Xiaoya was getting impatient. "Since my brother said that your daughter is fine, then don't worry. Why do you have so many questions? If you don't believe us, then think of a way to take care of your daughter yourself." "Do you know how much effort we put in to get the Dark Angel to help us find your daughter? He risked his life to ask for help, but you actually don't appreciate it and don't feel at ease." Gu Guolong blushed at Bai Xiaoya's words. That was indeed the case. "Xiaoya, how can you talk to old Master Gu like that?" Su Yun stopped Bai Xiaoya from complaining and explained to Gu Guolong. "Old Master Gu, I know that I didn't think things through, but I really had no choice. In Vancouver, other than knowing Celine through Matthew, I don't have any connections to help me deal with this." Gu Guolong nodded, embarrassed. "Old Master Gu, this happened because of me, so I'll take responsibility until the end. No matter what happens, as long as I, Su Yun, am still alive, I won't just stand by and watch you and Chia fall into danger." Su Yun was a man, and men had to have a sense of responsibility. "Thank you." Gu Guolong was about to cry. "I'm really sorry for making you work so hard for us. I'm the one who's sorry. Su Yun felt really guilty about the series of problems caused by Matthew's incident. The Gu family originally had nothing to do with this incident, but now, they were in such a predicament. Deep regret couldn't be erased from Su Yun's heart. Bai Xiaoya tried to smooth things over. Alright, it's all in the past. What should have happened was something none of us wanted to happen, but we had to face it. It's already pretty good that things have come to this point. Don't think too much about it. You're right. Gu Guolong nodded. Only then did he realize that he didn't even know the girl in front of him. Su Yun, may I know who this lady is? My sister, Bai Xiaoya, Su Yun said. Your sister? Gu Guolong was stunned. She's my biological sister. Su Yun added. He was afraid that the old man would misunderstand. In this day and age, a goddaughter was a mistress, and a godsister was a lover. It was all because of a certain group of people who didn't know how to behave properly and tainted so many beautiful names in order to avoid being noticed. In this day and age, those who weren't afraid of being misunderstood were either big bosses or officials who could cover the sky with one hand. Ordinary people wouldn't dare to have a goddaughter or godsister. They would all be spread around. Gu Guolong's expression was even more incredulous. If they were biological sisters, why didn't they have the same surname? What's going on? Su Yun didn't know how to explain, so he added. We have the same father but different mothers. I just found out. Is there a need for you to explain so much? Bai Xiaoya was a little unwilling to talk about her private matters in front of outsiders. Gu Guolong was definitely an outsider in front of her. It was already good enough that she didn't hate him when they met for the first time. It was normal that she didn't have a good impression of him. Gu Guolong said awkwardly. No, there's no need. Miss Bai, thank you so much for troubling you this time. Don't thank me. If you want to thank someone, you should thank my brother. If it wasn't for him, I definitely wouldn't have come. Bai Xiaoya was really honest. If it wasn't for Su Yun, Bai Xiaoya wouldn't have come for this kind of stimulation, no matter how much money was offered. Su Yun felt that Bai Xiaoya was too talkative, so he said, You sleep for a while first. I'm too tired from driving tomorrow morning, so you can replace me. We don't have time to waste now. The earlier we leave the country, the safer it will be. We won't have time to park before we reach Seattle. Take the time to rest. After we reach Seattle, how are we going to return to Vancouver? You don't have to worry about that. I'll contact Celine and ask her to tell her father to arrange for someone to pick us up. Su Yun said. Actually, even if they reached Vancouver, it wasn't over yet. If the U.S. government couldn't find Matthew, they would definitely look for Gu Guolong and Gu Qia. Su Yun could only bring them to Huaxia for this matter to be resolved. They must stay out of the limelight. As long as Huaxia announced to the public that Matthew had returned to the family and was loyal to Huaxia, the U.S. government wouldn't be able to do anything. At that time, Gu Guolong and Gu Qia would be really safe. But before that, they had to be careful. As for when the country would announce Matthew's news, it wasn't up to Su Yun to decide. Matthew was a news figure, and the country might not take any action to expose him for the sake of his safety. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.